and he goes to the end zone. WING 1410 Dayton's ESPN Radio. It's the Justin Kinner Show, live here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM. Tweet the show at 1410 Kinner or give us a call at 457-9464. We now send you to the Wing Studios in Kettering. Here's your host, Justin Kinner.
All right, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome in. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here as we wrap up the week and head into the weekend. NFL playoffs officially kick off this weekend. NFL wild card round officially will be underway. The Browns, after 18 seasons without playing a playoff game, they're going to have their hands full on Sunday night. For one, it is the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they have yet to they still have not stepped foot on a practice field, Kev. They have not ran one play all week. They have not prepared. I mean, they've prepared virtually. I love when we hear that on all the sports shows. They've been practicing virtually. It doesn't work that way. It's football. It's a contact sport. You're not. I mean, I know that there is there's a lot of homework behind the scenes that goes on even off the field and prepping for a game. But my goodness, give me a damn break. But, at this point, it is what it is. I've been very consistent all year of not over-dramatizing this stuff in regards to totally buying into that's why they lose a game. And now I've said if you're without a position group and you lose a game, hey, when you don't have your best players on the field, you lose. The one thing going for the Browns is regardless of not having practice this week and not having their head coach on Sunday, of all the COVID scenarios that have happened this year, Kev, guys being without a complete quarterback class, guys being without an entire offensive line, a wide receiver group completely missing, I would rather the Browns be in the situation that they're in where, hey, they still have all the guys that got into the playoffs are playing on Sunday. All right, all the guys, like you could say, okay, if Denzel Ward doesn't play, with all due respect to Denzel Ward, I'm a fan of him, don't get me wrong, but he's not why the Browns are in the playoffs. In fact, the Browns are in the playoffs despite that defense. Like, in spite of that defense, the Cleveland Browns are in the playoffs. So I'm still remaining confident that the reason that the Browns are in the playoffs is because of the run game, that offensive line, which will be without Bentonio, yes, and the passing attack. It's not Baker's not the best quarterback in the NFL. The passing game is not the best passing game in the NFL, but it is above average. You have one of the best running games in football. The offensive line still serviceable. They have a game plan. They have an identity, and at the end of the day, that's what they have to go on. And keep in mind, no home field advantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers technically.
Right.
I mean, when we talk about home field advantage, and we talked about it this week, the fans in the stands, that's what the home field advantage is. And Pittsburgh's a tough place to play, at any point throughout the season, but especially come playoff time. What would be worse, Kev, is if fans were allowed in the stands. And you have Baker Mayfield, where the communication issues could become a problem in a loud stadium. They're going to have communication issues just, again, taking calls from a brand new play caller this coming up Sunday. But it's going to be a lot easier to handle. You're not going to have so much noise. There's not going to be so much commotion around you with limited fans. I think what we said yesterday, 2,500 fans will be allowed, as some people like to call it, catch-up field for this playoff matchup. But again, we're just a couple days out. But you've been saying, look, this isn't fair, and that they shouldn't play. The problem is if they pushed it back or canceled it, I think they're saying, hey, we have one problem right now. We have one game that is impacted by this, at least so far, because a lot can happen between now and tomorrow, basically, when these games kick off. But they have one game. And I think that's the one reason the NFL has been stubborn in trying to move anything or do anything to help fix the situation for the Browns, because in their head is the only way to do something about it is to move something around, which will then impact other games, which will then have a trickle-down effect. And I think that's why basically the Browns are being scapegoated in this situation of they're throwing them to the wolves saying, hey, they're not favored to win anyways. Let's just get, the Browns, their good feel-good story was them making the playoffs. They're in the playoffs. They'll step foot out on the field. They'll get beat. The Steelers, they'll move on, and everything moves on from there. That's kind of the way I view it in my eyes. Not right or wrong, but
yeah. It's definitely not right. But the thing about it is when the Super Bowl comes around, and if it's a COVID outbreak on the AFC champion and the NFC champion, they're going to delay it, because it's the Super Bowl. My whole argument has always been, if we put so much value on the regular season because there are only 16 games in the regular season, those games count too. And obviously the playoff games count because the winner always keeps on advancing. There's going to be hell to pay later on if they end up having to cancel or postpone a Super Bowl or AFC or NFC championship. Those teams that got affected throughout the regular season and during the playoffs, like the Browns are, they're going to have multiple legs to stand on, because all you ever hear is every game is important, because we saw that with the Dolphins. They missed the playoffs by one game. So I think it's going to have repercussions if they end up having to push a game back.
See, I disagree with that too. It's from the standpoint of, like, what I had just mentioned was I think that the reason that they are being stubborn with moving the Browns game at all is because they're like, oh, well, it's just one team that's having a problem. We'll just move this one game. Moving this one game impacts many other games. Mm-hmm. It impacts other teams, to where if they just throw the Browns, basically throw them to the Wolves, let them go play this game, they'll get eliminated. The Steelers move on, and every game moves on as planned, and they'll live to face another week of hopefully, no hurdles. But
right.
We've seen that it's a hurdle every week. I think when you get to the AFC and NFC title game, Kevin, even the Super Bowl, of course they would move that. You're talking about when you get to the NFC and the AFC title game, now you only have 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And if the NFC title game has to get moved back a week, then you know what? The AFC, they play their game. They'll just wait 2 weeks. Hell, it'd be strange, but even 3 weeks. I mean, hell, we see college football wait a month between games. So why not? So it's going to be interesting moving forward how this pans out. You're right. But there's not going to be as much of an outcry early on until you see another team impacted later, because then Browns fans will be like, what the hell? How come you – oh, sure, Tom Brady. You'll let Tom Brady rest. But I do think that the situation matters. I don't think that every situation is the same. And I think that because you have 6 games this weekend – a lot of games would be impacted by moving the Browns game, because I think if you move one game, you have to move all the games. And I think that's why they're looking at this as hey, we're just throwing the Browns to the Wolves. Good luck, guys. Get them out of here. Make sure you say nice things about them, tell them how pretty they are, and then off they go, and then we move on with the playoffs. But earlier in the week, you asked a question regarding the Browns. A lot of Browns fans, a lot of Buckeye fans. There's a lot of crossover between those fan bases, just like there's a lot of Buckeye/Bengals fans, and so on and so on. But let's narrow this down. Browns, if you are a Browns/Buckeyes fan, this is the conversation. You're going to be heavily involved in this conversation. In fact, we're going to open up the phone lines at 457-9464. I'm curious, because Kev asked us earlier this week, if you are a fan of the Browns and the Buckeyes, both teams have big games coming up here in the coming days, and you can only pick one team to win. That means if you pick the Buckeyes to win the national championship, the Browns are for sure to lose. And if you pick the Browns to beat the Steelers on Sunday, that means the Buckeyes are going to lose. You can only pick one team to win. Who is that team going to be? Now, you aren't really involved in this conversation. You're not a Browns fan. Yeah, this is an easy one for you. So I thought about it. I thought long and hard. I gave this question a lot more thought than I actually thought I was going to, because I was really torn on it. It seems like an easy one. I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to pick, the Browns, because Ohio State, they're good every year. They can get back every year, right? Like the Cleveland Browns, this is their first playoff appearance in 18 years. They almost went 2 entire decades without a playoff appearance. But the difference is this isn't one of those teams where, like, if this was a team built like the Colts, where you have a rent-a-quarterback and you don't even know who your next quarterback is going to be, whether it's Brissett or whoever, you're still not confident that that's going to be the guy that takes you where you want to go, then I would be a little uncomfortable with this. But I'm actually going to say that I think the Buckeyes, I'm going to pick the Buckeyes. To me, it's more important that the Buckeyes win on Monday night than the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are set up for success, not super long term, but the near future. Like they are built to make the playoffs for the next 2 to 3 years, guaranteed, barring any kind of injury or God knows what other damn pandemic can come in and ruin everything, right? So I think that Cleveland is actually in good shape. Now, the Buckeyes are in good shape too. The Buckeyes have a crap ton of talent. They could be a playoff team every year. They could be in a national championship game every year. But the one thing about Ohio State that worries me is you look back at this past decade. You look at all the recruiting success. You look at the fact that they had Urban Meyer for a good 7 years of this past decade, Kev. 1 national championship. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
They only made the playoffs a few times. This is the first time since 2014 that the Buckeyes actually got a playoff win, and it's the first time since 2014 that the Buckeyes are in the national championship game. To me, I know the Buckeyes are going to recruit. I know the Buckeyes are going to have talent, but the Buckeyes, even with talent and with coaching and with everything that they've had this past decade, this is only the second time they've been to the national championship during that stretch. So to me, I think it's more important that Ohio State gets this national championship win on Sunday than Cleveland getting a win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's that.
It's super important for the Buckeyes to get a victory because they're in the championship game.
Yep.
The Browns, I don't want to say they're just in the playoffs, but they're in the tournament for the playoff to win the Super Bowl and everything like that. A national championship for Ohio State not only gives them 2 during the playoff era, it ties them with Alabama and Clemson with 2 during the playoff era. So that's important not only to the program, but for recruiting purposes. We talk about recruiting a little bit here on the show, how important it is and everything like that. I'm not the biggest recruiting guy. I don't follow it all like that, but I know good players equal wins. So the more championships you have, you're on TV more, the better players you're going to get. So championships are a must at Ohio State. And come Monday night versus Alabama, I'm expecting them to pull it off.
Yeah, and keep in mind, because I'm Ohio State, they have great recruiting classes coming in every year. They're always going to have this shot. But then I thought about it. I'm like, man, I feel like the national championship game that they beat Oregon was just a few years ago. I feel like that was just it was 2 years ago. No, that was 2014. It's 2021 now.
Yeah.
It is 7 years since their last national championship, which doesn't seem that long, but it's a good chunk of time considering when you look at all the talent that they've had. Think of all the great players Ohio State has had in the last 7 years. Think of quarterbacks, the Bosa brothers, Chase Young. Think of all the talent that these guys, Denzel Ward, Jeff Okudah, all the talent that they've had. All those guys didn't win a national championship.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a good 90% of them did it from the guys we just talked about. That's a big deal. So to me, talent doesn't mean anything. You're not guaranteed to get to the national championship game. Ohio State's recruiting success is not guaranteed that they are locked to even make the playoff or make it to the national championship game. Last year, you could argue probably the most well-balanced Ohio State team of all time when you look at what they had offensively, the firepower on offense and defense, from the pass rush to Jeff Okudah in the secondary, to Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins, that offensive line, the wide receiver. Ohio State was stacked last year. They didn't even play in the national championship game. So they're not guaranteed anything. The Cleveland Browns aren't guaranteed anything, but the Cleveland Browns, they rarely have a talented team. They have a talented team, and they have these guys locked in now for a few years. So I feel like Cleveland will be back. The Buckeyes will be back in the playoff, but they're not guaranteed anything as far as national championship is concerned. It's been 7 years since the Buckeyes were last in the national championship, and that's why I think it's important. If I could only pick one, if I could only pick the Cleveland Browns or the Ohio State Buckeyes to win their big game this weekend, I'm picking Ohio State. And to what you just said, it's a championship game, not a wild card game. Not even a first-round playoff game. We're talking a championship game, and also you're facing Alabama. That is huge. It's one thing to win a championship. When they beat Alabama to get to the title game in 2014, and that win felt like the biggest win of that run. We don't even remember the Oregon game. I can't tell you one play from the Oregon game. I can
tell you a couple plays.
See, it was cool. I remember watching the celebration. I was going nuts, but I didn't care about the matchup itself. Oregon Ohio State was just The sexy matchup was the semifinal matchup, sure. Ohio State, Alabama. But this year, you are facing Nick Saban. You are facing Alabama. You are going to most likely beat Alabama, right? Hopefully. A win over Alabama in the national championship game. I can think of nothing better than that right there. So, yes, I have to pick Ohio State in this conversation.
Oh, man, it would be everything, man. Not only the bragging rights, but just the fact that you beat the guys that have been dominating the playoff era to cement yourself right there along with them, because we all believe we're there, but we just don't have the extra piece of hardware to show it. So once we have the extra piece of hardware to show it, then we can really walk around with our chest out. So it's all about the Buckeyes come Monday night. I can't wait for that matchup. There's a lot of rumors going around about the game being postponed, about COVID issues and the Buckeye team and everything like that. We're hoping for the best. Obviously, you ever think about it like this? You got to do a lot of work to make sure these games happen on the air, right? Think about all the people at ESPN who do all the graphic work, who man the cameras, the producers behind the scenes. That's why I think this game is going to happen. I think there's pressure from ESPN telling the college football playoff system, look, man, we didn't put too much money behind this. We got sponsors, we got advertisers. We gotta have this game. I don't care if they gotta send Justin and Kev out there to play on the D line. This game's gotta happen on Monday. I really truly think that's part of the issue that they're dealing with. Why this game is definitely gonna happen on Monday.
On to the next one. John Cook on Facebook says it's been 6 years. Okay, I said 7. It's 6. So, I mean, we're nitpicking here. And besides, there's 2014 is 2021, but technically 2015 when they won that championship. So, yeah, 6 years. If that helps people sleep at night, fine. 1 year off, whatever it is, what it is. But
get it together, Kenner.
You see my point, big picture. But, yeah, it is what it is. But we're going to continue talking NFL playoffs coming up around the corner. We're actually going to rank all 12 quarterbacks in the NFL from the quarterback facing the most pressure to the quarterback facing the least pressure. We'll have those rankings coming up around the corner. Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. How many teams in the NFL have a better quarterback situation than Deshaun Watson? How many teams? When we're talking about the scenario of even a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, should they give up that number 1 overall pick to go get Deshaun Watson? I say absolutely, but we're going to take a look at all 32 teams in the NFL and say, okay, of all these teams that we're talking about here, how many of them have such a comfortable quarterback situation that they would just guarantee that they would pass up on Deshaun Watson? Because the one thing that we're talking about here, I keep seeing a lot of people say, oh, Deshaun Watson, Houston, they shouldn't just give him up. They should be stubborn and keep him. Kev, I don't think they want Deshaun Watson. Bill O'Brien made a mistake. With all due respect to Deshaun Watson, that team was not in a good financial place before they signed Deshaun Watson, and then they basically they handcuffed themselves with giving him that contract. He is the second highest paid quarterback in the history of the National Football League. His talent warrants it, but just because it warrants it doesn't mean that the team was in position to do it and to be able to succeed. There's a reason they had to move on from Hopkins on the fact that he didn't get along with Bill O'Brien and the head coach at the time. But I think that the Texans would actually be better off without Deshaun Watson, because with Deshaun Watson, you're not climbing out of that hole, that financial hole. You're not climbing out of that. So we're going to get to that coming up around the corner. That we keep saying, oh, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm hearing a lot of that today. I think that every team out there who looks at their quarterback and says, yeah, Deshaun's better, you better be putting a package together to go get Deshaun Watson. And that includes my Cleveland Browns. Just saying. I'm just saying. And that includes the Cincinnati Bengals too, but they won't do it. They're too damn cheap. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just saying. All right. Coming up around the corner, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. The homer answer around here is going to be Ohio State. But the most impressive team from the past decade was who? The program that was the most impressive between Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State.
Hold on. Let me make sure I'm getting that question right. The most impressive team or the most impressive program?
The program for the last 10 years, from 2010 to 2020.
Okay, got it.
Which program was the most impressive during that 10-year stretch? This isn't a bash on the Buckeye segment, I promise you, but my answer is not Ohio State, and I'll tell you why, and I'm hoping it will make sense to you guys. I'll try to speak English. That way everyone understands what I'm saying. We'll see. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go anywhere. More of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash next.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy, a high near 35. Tonight's also going to be mostly cloudy, a low around 25. And tomorrow will be partly cloudy, a high near 38. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Does learning a language feel like this?
No habla español? Hablo. It's hablo? Yes. It's hablo.
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
Since my husband is from Guatemala, I'll apply what I've learned in Babbel to our real life situations.
The app is so easy to use and it's so practical. It helps you learn things that you will actually need.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
For DIY projects, you know the Home Depot is always in your corner. Now with our mobile app, it can also be in the palm of your hand with digital tools like image search. Snap a picture of something. It'll recognize it and serve up product suggestions in seconds. And our product locator will check availability and lead you right to it. The Home Depot mobile app. Download it today to get started. Only from the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
It's time for some straight talk. Look, we all drop our phones. It happens. You fumble it, crack it, splash it. Well, Straight Talk Wireless now offers this new Platinum Unlimited plan that includes phone protection. Just $65 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data, plus 20 gigs of hotspot, 100 gigs of cloud storage, and more. All on the best network. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. See Mobile Protect terms and conditions at Asurion.com/Straight Talk. Limitations and exclusions apply.
It's such a beautiful night. Look at the stars.
They're amazing. Did you know 20% of stars have planets orbiting them capable of sustaining life?
How did you know that? You must spend a ton of time reading.
Not at all. I use Blinkist.
Blinkist?
Yeah, it's an app that takes key insights from over 4,000 nonfiction bestsellers and gathers them into 15-minute blinks for you to read or listen to. With Blinkist, you can learn the main points of an entire book in just 15 minutes, as opposed to days or weeks.
What kind of books?
Nonfiction books in over 27 categories, from personal development to history, management, investing, philosophy, and more. Books like A Beautiful Mind, The 4-Hour Workweek, Freakonomics, and Sapiens. Blinkist makes it easy to learn about pretty much anything.
Like the stars?
Even the stars.
Right now, radio listeners get 25% off, plus 1 free week when you go to Blinkist.com/grow. To get this special offer, go to Blinkist.com/grow. That's BLINKIST.com/GROW.
Cordell Transportation is now hiring for brand new home daily dedicated lanes. Earn up to $1,620 per week. A $2,000 sign-on bonus, medical, dental, vision, company paid life insurance. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
Attention Class A CDL drivers. Looking to be more than just a number? Yoel Transportation in Dayton is looking for drivers with at least 1.5 years experience. Yoel has open positions for no-tarp flatbed drivers and no-touch regional or local van drivers. Yoel is ELD compliant and offers 401k with match, medical, dental, vision, holiday pay, vacation, safety bonuses, and now has a rider policy. Call Rick or Joe at 937-294-5933 and ask about the $5,000 sign-on bonus today.
I'm Suzanne Geis. I tried everything to control my anxiety. Nothing worked. I went to Mark Patrick Anxiety Seminar. Now I hear Mark's voice in my head. My anxiety is gone. I can sleep. I have patience. And I'm not drinking to control my anxiety. My life is back. And I'm Supergirl again.
Eliminate unwanted anxiety, stress, negative thinking, even panic attacks. Only $49.99 guaranteed or your money back. The End Anxiety, Stop Smoking, and Weight Loss with Hypnosis seminars will be Saturday, January 9th for the Dayton area in the comfort and safety of your living room. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
It's time for some straight talk. Look, we all drop our phones. It happens. You fumble it, crack it, splash it. Well, Straight Talk Wireless now offers this new Platinum Unlimited plan that includes phone protection. Just $65 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data, plus 20 gigs of hotspot, 100 gigs of cloud storage, and more. All on the best network. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. See Mobile Protect terms and conditions at Asurion.com/Straight Talk. Limitations and exclusions apply.
College football, it's the game you wake up early on Saturdays for, even though kickoff isn't until 7. The game where the Goodyear blimp becomes a Hall of Famer. The game that goes just beyond school, spirit, fandom, or love of the sport. It's the game where the comebacks happen. It's the game where anything can and will happen, as long as you have the drive. Because college football is the game that moves you. We get it because it moves us too. Goodyear, more driven.
Staples has everything you need to start the year right, like home office furniture, the latest tech, and organizational supplies, and all at amazing prices. Get a fresh start this year with big savings from Staples.
Don't miss the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays at 3 p.m. on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
So you want to talk about outliers? Those guys are out. You're lucky that this thing's separating us. That's all I got to say. For facts, though. I got your facts right here.
Listen, stream, and now watch. Search the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook to follow along. college football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Fire Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on a Friday. I hope everyone had a great week. Looking forward to the weekend. 6 NFL playoff games. I'm gonna be glued to the couch all weekend. I'm looking forward to that. Not a very exciting. Well, actually, no, that is. I'm 30 years old. For 30 years old during a pandemic, that's actually a very exciting weekend. To have 6 NFL playoff games, that's for sure. Before the break, I started looking at, Clemson, just looking at some stuff for the Ohio State-Alabama game and just some things I keep coming across that just really pop out to me. And I think sometimes I oversimplify things with how I perceive success and what I deem to be success. But then again, I don't think I simplify it enough because the purpose of playing the sport is to what, Kev?
Win.
To win. To win what? Championships. That is the ultimate goal. That is why you work so hard. That's why you practice every day. That's why you go through everything you do in the regular season to win a championship. Everything you do should every roster move, every practice, every drill, every play call, everything from regardless of the sport should be about positioning yourself towards a championship. That's it. So I don't know why when the whole purpose and goal is to win a championship. When teams don't win championships, we do everything but say, yeah, we failed. There are 3 teams who I believe are championship or bust programs every year. I don't believe LSU and Auburn and Penn State and Michigan and these other teams are championship or bust. I mean, technically, based on how I opened this, that technically should be, right? But you have to be a little realistic in there. But I do believe that if you simplify it, when you have the best players, you should win championships. Mm-hmm. The teams with the better players should win championships. If you are as good a coach as you say you are, and you have all these great players, you should win championships. Now, you can't bat 1,000. I completely get that, especially when you're going up against other teams built like you. I completely get that. You're allowed losses. You're allowed losses against certain programs, but you have to mix in wins, which, by the way, I got torched for this last week. People said I was a Buckeye hater. They called me every name in the book. But I believe I was being one of the most rational people when looking at the big picture of why the Ohio State-Clemson matchup was such a big one. To me, it was bigger than just a playoff game, Kev, because Ohio State, to remain in the conversation as being up there with with Alabama and Clemson, you got to sprinkle wins in over those programs. Now, the last time Ohio State-Alabama played, we know what happened. Down double digits. It looked like Bama was about to steamroll them, and then they come rolling back. Thanks to, of course, the legs of Ezekiel Elliott and the big playmaking ability of Cardale Jones's arm. And it was a magnificent game. I mean, it was one of the most memorable Buckeye games of all time. You have the best players, championship expectations, period. There's only 3 teams that should have that championship expectation or bust every year, and that's Clemson, that's Ohio State, and that's Alabama. Ironically enough, it came down to 3, those 3 schools here in the college football playoff this year, along with Notre Dame mixed in. So I started looking, I'm like, okay, that's why when we get to National Signing Day and early signing day, I'm always the one waving the flag of, okay, everyone's bragging, pumping their chests. Look at the recruiting class we have. We need more championships. You can't brag about, we got the number 1, number 2, number 3 recruiting class, but you don't have more than one championship. That's why I think this Monday night is so important for Ohio State. I do believe, I'm going to be deemed real negative here. This past decade, I think that the Ohio State Buckeyes underachieved this past decade. Because of all the recruiting success that they had, the fact that you did have Urban Meyer, who's not just one of the best coaches in program history, arguably one of the best, not arguably, he is, without a shadow of a doubt, top 3 head coach of all time in college football. That you could debate that all you want later. But the point is I had high expectations for the team, and I feel like they underachieved. Years missing the playoff, losing to teams you shouldn't. I believe that was the case this past decade. So I started looking at, okay, going back to my theme here of you have the best players, you should be expected to win. You can't brag about having the best players and then not have the championships to back it up. So I started looking at this past decade. I'm like, well, who was the most impressive of the 3 programs that I deem championship or bust programs? I believe there's only 3 in college football. All right, there's a lot of Notre Dame, great program. LSU has its ups and downs. Auburn sprinkles it in there from time to time. You look at the Big Ten. Penn State has a lot of expectations, but no one looks at Penn State and says, if James Franklin doesn't win a national title this year, it's a bust. That's not necessarily true. I do believe that the next fringe line is college football playoff or bust, right? Like I think that's the next fair line that Notre Dame technically should always be a college football playoff team or bust. That's why only 4 teams makes it so intriguing. It really does increase the urgency in recruiting, in scheduling, and making every week a must-win game. But this past decade, Kev, I always say the 3 best recruiting schools are Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama, no particular order. Mm-hmm. Clemson's actually not that great of a recruiting program.
Right.
And so when you ask me who's been the most impressive program this past 10 years, it is Clemson. It is Clemson. And I'll tell you why. I started looking at this. Okay, Ohio State, this from 2010 to now, they have 0 number 1 recruiting classes. That's fine. Whatever. I think you're top 3. You're more than 5. They had 4 number 2 recruiting classes in this past decade, and they had 5 top 3 recruiting classes in this past decade. All right. That's fantastic. That's why they're always, that's why they've separated themselves from the rest of their conference. That's why they're always in the conversation to make the college football playoff. That's why they always have the expectation to win a national championship. They had 1 national title this past decade. Mm-hmm. Then you look at Alabama. Alabama had the number 1 recruiting class from 2010 to now. They've had it 9 times. 9 times. Alabama has had the number 1 recruiting class 9 times. They have how many championships in that little span? Like 1, right? Like I think they sprinkled
0.
They were able to sneak one in there, right? They have the best players. It results in championships. Alabama succeeded, right? That should be, they recruit well, they win championships. But I'm always infatuated with the coaches and programs that do more with less. Like I think Ohio State underachieved this past decade. I think Alabama achieved right about where they should be. They had, multiple championships, multiple number 1 recruiting classes, the best players, the best coach equated to championships pretty much every other year. 5 straight national championship appearances now or whatever, 3 or 4 straight, whatever it is at this point. So I start looking at Clemson, Kev. They from 2010, the 27th recruiting class, 2011, the 10th, 12th, the 20th, 15th recruiting class in 2013, the 16th in 2014, the 11th in 2016, the 16th recruiting class in 17. In 2019, they had the 10th best recruiting class. Clemson had 8 double-digit ranked recruiting classes during that stretch. 2 national championships, college football playoff appearances every year. 3 straight. Their run of national championship appearances came to an end this season with losing to Ohio State. But Clemson, to me, does more with less. And any program that does more with less, that has less talent and takes that team with less talent and elevates it to the same platform of the team with the most talent, that speaks volumes about the job that Dabo, I don't care. I do care who he is as a person, but I'm not really trying to get into it about who he is as a person, but talking more so about the fact that, hey, he takes less and does the exact same as what Ohio State and Alabama is doing. And actually, he surpasses Ohio State and does exactly what Alabama is doing. Clemson, to me, has been the most impressive team this past decade. Alabama, nothing. They've done nothing wrong. It's just they did what they're supposed to. The reason I put Clemson ahead of them is because they're not supposed to. When you have, eight double-digit recruiting ranked classes in the past decade, and yet you have multiple national championships, 3 straight national championship appearances, winning a national championship with 2 different quarterbacks and recruiting classes during that span. To me, that's beyond impressive. I think doing more with less Clemson surpasses Alabama in that conversation.
That's not a bad take. I can't even argue with that. I think the things that Clemson are doing currently, have been doing, because they're definitely creeping up there now in the recruiting rankings with Ohio State and Alabama. But the thing about Clemson is they're getting a quarterback. We're going to talk about Deshaun later, but Deshaun was there. Took them to 2 straight national championship games, lost 1, won 1, and then they replaced Deshaun Watson with Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. There's not a quarterback Ohio State has or had that's on their level outside of Justin Fields. Like Justin Fields is like the guy that we could point to, like, okay, if things go our way on Monday, we got us one that can compete with them. Ohio State has never produced a quarterback at the same level as Deshaun Watson, ever. And neither has Alabama, unless you want to talk about Joe Willie Namath. So, they're getting the best position out there, the best guy to play their position. And not only that, they're coaching them up. You know what I'm saying? We look at guys that come into the NFL and see them make an impact. Well, they have to be developed somewhere first. They normally spend 3-4 years before they get to the NFL. So when you get developed in college, you got to give kudos not only to the head coach, but, the QB coach, the offensive coordinator, because, guys like a Dabo aren't the same as a guy like Jimbo. Unfortunately, I had to do a Dabo and Jimbo comparison, both Bows, but Jimbo Fisher, Jimbo Fisher is a quote unquote quarterback guy, and he has his hands all in the offense. So he's working hand to hand with his quarterback. Dabo is a big picture guy. He allows his coaches to coach, and he coaches the coaches. So just say, for instance, Dabo wasn't on the sidelines when we played him. I think that would have less effect than when they were missing Tony Elliott, the guy that works with Trevor on a day-to-day basis. That's why I think with the Browns situation, the guy working with Baker Mayfield on a day-to-day basis, the head coach, the play caller, that's going to have a significant effect on the outcome of the game. So I want to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff over there at Clemson for coaching up the most important position on the field, which is the quarterback. And they had to shine, and they backed it up and got Trevor Lawrence. And now they're going to have DJU. So they're getting the most important position, and they're coaching it up. So you got to give them a lot of props for that.
Yeah, and you look at really, and Ohio State's always been great, don't get me wrong, but the reason that Ohio State now jumps off the page more so than ever is, I think back to JT Barrett. I'm bashing JT, but I'm just saying, like, JT Barrett was
coming on the show,
an extremely talented quarterback, but you could just tell when watching him, there's just something about him that just, I don't want to say holding him back has too negative of a connotation to it, but there was a ceiling with him. Mm-hmm. And you look at the ceiling of the playmaking ability of Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields, and what we hope to see from Jack Miller and CJ Stroud, and even the number one quarterback coming out of Texas that Ohio State was able to sign in the years to come. Like that's really, it's one thing to be a top program, but the quarterback is what takes you to the next level. Alabama, just when you think they couldn't get any better, all of a sudden this Tua Tagovailoa comes in. Like Jalen Hurts was your typical Alabama quarterback. Very, actually he was a little bit above average for an Alabama quarterback, right? Really, really good. He jumped off the field to you. He stood out. He had big playmaking ability. He didn't lull you to sleep. A lot of Alabama quarterbacks kind of lull you to sleep a little bit. Jalen Hurts popped out to you a little bit. And then Tua comes in and has this huge playmaking ability. Mac Jones takes over. So the college football playoff, to me, and we've had this conversation in the past, if you don't have an elite quarterback, you don't have a shot to win a national championship. If you and take a look at the college football playoff, I haven't done this in a while, but I think about a year ago, you and I talked about this when I said, go back to every playoff and look at every team that's made the college football playoff. Every one of them has had an elite quarterback. Every single one of them. Like, you're not getting to the college football playoff with average quarterback play. It's just not going to happen. That's why, that's why I think it's so important to have the playmakers that Ohio State does and the quarterbacks that Ohio State has moving forward, because those are the type of styles of quarterbacks and the style of play that's going to get them there. And coaching, as we always talk about, definitely matters. Who was it? Rob here brought up a good point, brought up Kirby Smart. Georgia actually is a better recruiting school than Clemson. Georgia constantly kicks their ass when it comes to recruiting. Where have they been? Like, they have a college football playoff appearance. Right? They got to the national title game once. They lost to Tua Tagovailoa in Alabama. So it's just one of those things where that's where I really respect Clemson's coaching staff and the job that they do, because they don't recruit as well as those other programs, but yet they coach them up to be on that same level. And I think that's what's fascinating. When I started breaking this down and looking at it, I was like, holy smokes, I always just perceived Clemson to always be right up there with the top recruiting school, and they're not. They're just not. And I think that's what's fascinating. So I'm not taking anything away from Bama. I do feel like Ohio State underachieved in this past decade. I don't know why people always have to take that as a slight. I would think that people could agree. I would think that as a fan base, you would expect your team to win national championships. So I think that by me kind of holding them to a high standard like that I would have more people on my side than what I normally do, but it is what it is. But just some food for thought. I just thought that it'd be interesting to have that conversation. But yeah, to me, this past decade, Clemson, and mainly because when the decade first started, they were just coming into their own. They were just starting to build, right? I mean, certainly in 2010, they had the 27th ranked recruiting class, and here at the end of the day. So think about, there's teams right now to start this decade that we're not even paying attention to with what they're doing in recruiting rankings. And by the time we get to 2030, we're going to look back and say, oh man, in 2020, 2021, that's when that program really started taking off. Who knows? Maybe it's North Carolina. Who knows who it is? It's going to be some random school that we're not. Cincinnati. It could be the Bearcats. This could be the start of this decade. Could be, what really propels Cincinnati. That 10 years from now, 10 years from now, we may not even be having the conversation of, man, does Cincinnati do enough to get in? We may just be expecting them to get in because it's all about progression, and that's what the Bearcats are doing. That's what Clemson did, and now they're sitting at the table with Ohio State, Alabama, and others.
Something I definitely we can get into later, but we got to get somebody that really knows the ins and outs of recruiting, because I know there's, X amount of 5 stars out there every year, X amount of 4 stars out there every year. And I know certain position groups they'll never have a 5-star on them. Like a kicker will never have a 5-star ranking. You know what I'm saying? So
they have a 5-star impact on how many games.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Like how many times has Alabama lost games because they didn't have a kicker? You know what I'm saying? And then some guy at, I don't know, Mizzou Tech wins kicker of the year and he goes on to the NFL and has a great career. Like how many guys out there? I really want to talk to a recruiting guy to really break things down and really dissect, how do they come up with these star rankings? Who says what? Who gives these guys that? Because that's kind of one of the things that you and I talk about all the time. I just don't know how they come up with these numbers and who's giving these kids these grades. Is it some guy in his basement? Oh man, he runs a fast 40 time. Boom, he's a 5-star. I just don't know. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm ignorant to understanding how that whole situation is broken down, because I remember there was a time, before the internet. Yes, there was time before the internet where used to be these things called magazines, and you would get these magazines.
That was Buyers. Buyers wasn't the star system didn't exist back when he
right.
It was that magazine that you're talking about that he was telling me about. That's how you got rated back.
Yeah. So I'm so somebody comes up with a rating in a magazine. So if somebody is purchasing a magazine, just like anything else, when something is turned into monetization, it dilutes it. So you mean to tell me, let's just say Johnny Jones, he plays at Alter and he starts getting recruited by Ohio State. His star ranking isn't going to go up just because he's getting recruited by Ohio State, because us Ohio State fans love to have these 4 and 5-star guys. Oh, so we're clicking on certain websites, giving them clicks.
But we're also talking about fanboy reporters who are also in charge of this as well.
That's what I'm saying. I want to know. That's what I want to understand. I want to understand how this whole Rivals network, this whole ESPN top 300, I want to know how this is broken down. I want to know who's behind the scenes making these things happen, because I just don't know, man. I just can't take somebody's word for it just because they say it on a piece of paper or on a website. Oh, this kid's this. That's why I'm always okay, he has this, but I've never seen him play. How would I know that a kid in San Diego, Chris Olave, is going to become this? I've never seen him play. I just got to go off what you told me. But according to what you guys told me, Chris Olave was a throw-in. He was a 3-star.
Well, and Zeke was a 3-star. I mean, there's a lot of those examples.
That's what I'm saying. So how am I to know and how am I to trust you that this kid is going to be what you say he is?
But at the same time, you can't deny, and I tell this to buyers all the time when him and I discuss this, because he says the same thing. He doesn't care about the star system. And a lot of people try to say, oh, it's a flawed system. I don't buy into it. But you kind of have to. There is something there.
Oh, yeah, it's
because there's a direct correlation between the teams that are competing for the playoffs and national title and conferences titles every year. There's a direct correlation between the teams who are constantly at the top of that recruiting ranking every year and the teams that are constantly fighting for the playoff. But that's why when we've discussed who was the most impressive team this past decade, the narrative is oh yeah, the top recruiting schools are the ones making the playoffs every year. Well, Clemson, they're not a bad recruiting school, but I just talked about it. I mean, looking back 8 times in the past decade, they had a recruiting ranking that was in the double digits. It's not like they were up there with Ohio State and Alabama. So according to these rankings, Clemson's not bringing in the same caliber of players as Ohio State and Alabama, but yet they're right that they have more titles than Ohio State. They have more playoff appearances than Ohio State. They have more title game appearances than Ohio State. So that's where I was kind of going with that. But you're right. Byers was also, he'd be fun to talk to about this too, because he also mentioned at one point about, parents, boosters.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the difference between a 3 and a 4-star, or even a 2 and a 3, it could be a complete scholarship. You have to pay this little reporter over here. Hey, man, if you give my kid a little bit, if you maybe
a little bump,
if you give him a little bump, to them, a couple $1,000s to pay off this reporter to give him a couple extra stars, that's a lot cheaper than having to pay tuition for 4 years for his kid to go to a bigger school, right? Like that, that's the difference. Like we're talking about, like we act like these stars, like we make fun of them, but they're a big deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money that separates the 2 and the 3, and we don't even talk about 2s. Like we don't care about 2s, right?
Right.
But you become a 3-star all of a sudden. Now it's a little bit different conversation. We make fun of 3 stars even at this level, right? But Zeke was a 3. I mean, we do that all the time. We talk about all the guys who not your 4 and 5s and who go on to be big stars and what you talked about Olave and whatnot. But all right, folks, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be back on the other side of the break. ESPN, couple pieces of breaking news here. Not really breaking news, just more so along the lines of updates. Ohio State, Bama, it's officially on. They are officially heading to Miami.
Wheels up, baby.
And we have an update on the Cleveland Browns. Browns fans, stick around. We have an update. Remember, the facility has been closed all week. Some positive news for the Browns is they have 1 day to make up for an entire week's worth of practice missed. Maybe. We'll discuss when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
2020 has been a hard-hitting year for all of us, but specifically for our veterans. Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission will be holding a new winter coat giveaway for all qualifying veterans on Friday, January the 15th at the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission, located at 627 Edwin C. Moses Boulevard, 4th floor, East Medical Plaza. For coat qualifying requirements, go to mcvsc.org or call 937-225-4801.
My stomach.
Don't worry, I've got you covered.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
What's that?
It's Pepto-Bismol chews.
Pepto-Bismols in a chew?
Yeah, they taste great and provide fast relief. And you can always have Pepto-Bismol handy.
Ooh, let me try it.
Try Pepto-Bismol chews for fast relief.
Nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Ooh, a fondue set. Now I need to find a coupon code.
Not anymore, Susan. Capital One Shopping instantly searches for available coupon codes and automatically applies them at checkout.
Wait, instantly?
It's called shopping smart, not hard. Download Capital One Shopping to your computer for free and let it do the work for you.
Don't mind if I fondue.
That's kind of cheesy. Capital One Shopping. It's kind of genius. What's in your wallet?
Savings and available coupons vary.
Pros, Lowe's offers commercial cleaning supplies from top brands like Clorox, Zep, and Rubbermaid to help you stay clean and safe. Shop Lowe'sForPros.com and choose delivery or pickup in store. Lowe's, the new home for pros, U.S. only.
Guns it long down the right side, ball in the air toward the end zone, and that ball is going to be and the Buckeyes get it. Tyrus Powell, he goes racing up and is tackled at the 30-yard line, and the king of the SEC has fallen.
This is the voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels. Join us Monday night as Ohio State will take on Alabama for the national championship. We'll be on the air beginning at 6:30 p.m. with the AEP Energy Buckeye pregame show from Learfield IMG College on the Ohio State Sports Network, presented by the James.
On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER and ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle.
All right, everybody, we're back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. Everyone knows I'm not the biggest Bengals fan in the world. In fact, it's very easy for me to take little shots at the organization. But I watched Joe Burrow on Colin Cowherd's show yesterday, Kev, and man, I like the damn quarterback. It ticks me off. I tune in. I started like coming up with like Macaulay Culkin jokes. I started thinking like Home Alone joke. He looks like Macaulay, but like. I don't roll my eyes at anything he says. I buy in. He's the real deal. I'll never doubt, and he's the real deal, at least from a professional standpoint of having what it takes mentally to be a quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to find out, how the recovery process for him this offseason, what's next for him. But coming up here in hour number 2, I'm curious. There are some Bengals fans who have fought me from the very beginning about Zac Taylor. There is a small pocket of Bengals fans who do support Zac Taylor, but for those who are not fans of Zac Taylor, does the power of Joe Burrow's opinion sway your opinion of the 625-1 head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals? When Joe Burrow says, I believe in Zac Taylor, when Joe Burrow says that he loves Zac Taylor, does that all of a sudden just change your mind? We'll discuss that coming up here in hour number 2. So keep that in mind. That's coming up around the corner. All right, Kev. So ESPN just released this a little bit ago. Again, keep in mind the Cleveland Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Sunday Night Football. The Browns back in the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. And, well, in typical Cleveland Browns fashion, they finally make the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. But, of course, nothing can come easy. I shouldn't say easy. Nothing's easy about the playoffs. Even Tampa, who's going up against a team under 500 and winning their division in Washington, they don't have it easy. Washington is going to be a tough opponent for them. I don't care what anybody says. That's tough. There's no such thing as an easy opponent in the playoffs right now.
What does Ron think?
What
does Ron think?
Who cares? I'm sure no rounds. I'm sure he'll have his opinion shortly. But my point is nothing's easy. But in typical Browns fashion, there's not easy, and then there's Browns not easy. And nothing's easy right now. They haven't practiced once since the clock hit 0. When they all walked off the football field, since the clock hit 0, when they beat the Steelers' second-string team this past Sunday, when they beat the Steelers' second-string team on Sunday and walked off the field, that was the last time they walked off the field. It's a Friday. We're heading. The first 3 games of the wild card round starts tomorrow, Kev. But according to ESPN, Jake Trotter just released this that the Cleveland Browns have reopened their facility. They've started practices ahead of the AFC wildcard game, which, again, at this point, we could be negative and say, oh, man, this sucks. You only get Friday and Saturday to practice. As of yesterday, we didn't even think they would get Friday and Saturday to practice.
Yeah.
So technically, you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But let's be clear. How difficult do you actually think these practices are at this point? You should be in shape. You're doing enough to remain in condition. You know what I'm saying? Like that. So it's not like these are hard-hitting, preseasons, camp practices where you're just running your ass off and just trying to get in shape. Now, it is important that these guys do stay in shape in the days that they're off, because that could have an impact. But a lot of this is I don't think it's as big a deal as what we are making to a certain extent. Like, the studying of the game is really what's the watching the film. Being mentally prepared for a game is just as important as being physically and ready for a game. And by this point, you should be physically ready for a game. It's not as if that the intensity of these practices are stronger now than what they were at the beginning. In fact, the practices get lighter as the season goes on. It's less about hitting at this point. It's less about that aspect of it. So I'm not saying it's not a big deal that they haven't practiced, but I kind of am in the standpoint of every day. It's not as if they're just all sitting home watching Netflix reruns of Law and Order or whatever else you could find on there, Tiger King, whatever else is going on. Like, they are literally doing nothing but absorbing preparation for this game coming up on Sunday one way or another. It's not as if they're going to step foot out on the field and not recognize the damn thing that the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing. It's a familiar opponent. You've played them twice. You play them every year. They've had the same coach for over a decade. It's not as if there's going to be a wrinkle that you are not familiar with when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. From a defensive standpoint. Now, offensively, it's more about the Cleveland Browns being prepared offensively. But the problem is the only thing that's going to impact the Browns, and this is something you had brought up, Kev, is there's nothing you can prepare for that.
Right.
Like Van Pelt is not going to all of a sudden. He's not just going to magically know what buttons to push for Baker Mayfield late in the game. That's just going to be a thing. Like, you have to wait and see. We'll see, as we always say. We'll just have to wait and see, because there's nothing that Van Pelt can do to mentally prepare for that. It's you study your quarterback. And by the way, he knows his quarterback like the back of his hand in regards to what he's capable of doing and not capable of doing. What he doesn't know, though, is, okay, at certain points in games, does he notice certain rhythms about how Baker's operating that Stefanski would notice that maybe he wouldn't? Those are going to be the things that we find out about, especially going up against a very disciplined team in the Pittsburgh Steelers from a defensive standpoint. So I do believe that will have an impact on the game. I don't think it's as drastic as people are making it out to be. And I also don't think that them not practicing all week is as drastic as what people are making it out to be. Because, again, division opponent, you played them twice. You know them like the back of your hand. You play them every year. Mike Tomlin's not a new coach that has some of these different schemes that you've never heard of or seen before. So I don't think it's as drastic as what we're making it out to be. Bottom line is, you're not going to hear me be making excuses if the Browns lose on Sunday, because I still think that, like I said, you got to the playoffs because of your run game. Not being on a practice field for 5 days doesn't make your run game worse. All right, you got to the playoffs because Baker stopped turning the ball over and took that next step forward this season, right? him not practicing all week isn't going to be why he turns the ball over on Sunday if he does, and it's not going to be why he doesn't turn it over on Sunday if he does. So that's where I'm looking at this big picture and saying, of course you would like to be on the field prepping for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but at the same time, it's January. You are who you are at this point, and I don't think that there's anything the Browns could have done the past 4 or 5 days that could have given them the advantage over the Pittsburgh Steelers that they already do or do not have as we currently sit here today on Friday afternoon.
I think it's something to be said about being in rhythm, though, right? The ability or the lack of ability to practice at all. Like, yeah, they're not going out there practicing like it's a game, but, you know, being in rhythm with your quarterback, being in rhythm with your offensive line, and furthermore with the coach, you know, he's going to be calling plays for the first time, but I believe the special teams coordinator is going to be the quote unquote acting head coach. So, like, what about game management and things of that nature? Like, there's certain things that haven't been on his plate before, you know? So, like, these are all new things, and for them to all be new going into the most important game of the season, the playoffs, I think there's a lot on their plate, and it's no fault of their own. It's no fault of their own, but you know, something that we talked about off the air, eventually, you know, I and people that say it's unfair, other Cleveland Browns fans, just need to get over it because the game's happening. You know what I'm saying? So I can be saying, oh, it's not fair. They need to do it this way. They need to do it that way. It ain't happening. The NFL is the NFL. They're going to play this game because they want to keep their schedule. They want to keep their money in their pockets. And personally, they just don't care. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, game on. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to have to make the best of a bad situation. And let's be clear, they are definitely capable of winning the game.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, they just got to go out there and strap it up and play some big boy football.
Yeah, like, I mean, the reasons, the nerves I have for this game on Sunday night, not one of them, Kev, if I give you my top 3 reasons I'm nervous about this Steelers matchup on Sunday night, not one of them has to do with them not practicing this week. Like, I don't think the Browns aren't going to be able to run the ball on Sunday because they didn't practice this week. You are who you are. You know what Nick Chubb can do. You know what Kareem Hunt can do. You know what this offensive line can do. I just think that it's not going to be impacted as much as what some people believe. And at the same time, I mean, I don't know. But I mean, we could have been having these doubts about Kevin Stefanski, who's never been a head coach of a team in the playoffs to begin with. There's always something that we could be sitting here saying, oh, yeah, but what happens if this happens? You know, Stefanski's never been a head coach of a team in the playoffs before. We can always go down the list of finding reasons of why we're going to be concerned. But for once, Kinner is looking at all the reasons why I'm going to be positive because there was a lot working against the Browns this year to not make the playoffs.
Right.
They won 11 games. Like that, so that's why I'm trying to remain as positive as possible. I think that the Cleveland Browns are in good shape to win this game on Sunday.
Positive vibes, man.
Yeah, no pun intended. So there's that. All right, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. But yes, Jake Trotter, ESPN Browns reporter, just announced that 2 days before their first playoff appearance in 18 years, the Cleveland Browns will finally practice. The NFL cleared the team to practice Friday afternoon for the first time this week. Cleveland's training facility had been closed since Tuesday after head coach Kevin Stefanski and 4 others within the team had tested positive for COVID-19. So no additional positive tests since then. So that is good for Cleveland moving forward.
Another thing about the league, they're full of it because they kept saying all week long, well, they're not getting it at the facility. They're getting it out when they're out in the public. No, that's not true. Somebody is patient zero inside the Browns organization. May not be a player, may not be a coach, might be a receptionist, might be the water boy. Somebody is the person giving it to the players. Because guess what? When they had more positive tests early in the week, nobody was in the facility. So that means
they were out drag racing.
And stomping on weed.
So there you go. Don't waste good weed. What's wrong with you?
Bad cop. I'm joking.
All right, folks, we'll be back in tomorrow with Don't Go Anywhere. Hour 2 coming up. Get into some Bengals conversation. Bengals fans, for those of you who are like me that are not a fan at all of Zac Taylor being brought back for another year after being 6-25-1 after his first 2 seasons with the team, Joe Burrow loves him. Joe Burrow signs off. He agrees. I'm Joe Burrow, and I approve this message. That's what he says about the Cincinnati Bengals bringing back Zac Taylor. Does Joe Burrow's confidence in Zac Taylor impact your confidence or lack thereof in the third year, what he will be a third-year head coach? in 2021. We'll get to that coming up around the break. Plus, we'll get into our conversation with Bengals reporter James Rapine about everything going on with this Bengals team again as they prepare for the NFL draft. They're on the clock. All right, not technically on the clock, but they're full steam ahead preparing for the NFL draft. So we'll get to that coming up around the corner as well. Hour 2 next. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Starting route. Your destination is 0.1 miles away.
If you drive less than
500 feet, turn left. You have arrived at your destination.
if you drive less than 25 miles a day, you could be paying less every day with pay-per-mile car insurance from Allstate. You get the same reliable coverage and hands-on expertise you'd expect from Allstate, but now at a price that's tailored to the miles you drive.
Call your local Allstate agent and start paying what's right for you. Includes a daily rate. Prices vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Not applicable in California. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and its affiliates.
You took an antacid, and now your frequent heartburn's back. Stop heartburn before it begins with Prilosec OTC. Its unique delayed-release formula blocks heartburn at the source for 24 hours, so you can extinguish heartburn before it starts. Make the switch to Prilosec OTC today and live heartburn-free. Prilosec OTC. 1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Carmen's startup found an angel investor, but now they're asking for a miracle from her development team.
Hello, this is Carmen. That's exciting news. I guess we could launch early.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Menards Bag Sale is back and bigger than ever because this year you get 15% off everything you can fit in the bag for 2 weeks. That's right, now through January 16th. Need new tools? Put them in the bag and save 15%. Updating your bath faucet? Put it in the bag and save 15%. Painting? Save 15%. Whatever you need. If it fits in the bag, you save 15%. In-store only through January 16th at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
This is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking. I lost 70 pounds and my friend lost 20 pounds in the first 2 months.
Oh, wow. That's remarkable. That's right. Join Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar and lose the weight, stop smoking, or end anxiety for only $49.99 guaranteed or your money back. Because of coronavirus, seminar now online live Saturday, January 9th for Dayton. Details at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
Staples has everything you need to start the year right, like home office furniture, the latest tech, and organizational supplies, and all at amazing prices. Get a fresh start this year with big savings from Staples.
There are many ways to catch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You can catch it live right here on 1410 Wing AM, or you can stream the show at wingam.com. But now we have another way that you can take in the show. You can now watch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live on ESPN Dayton's Facebook page. Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. Whether you're at home, at work, or in your car, tune in to ESPN 1410 Wing AM or stream us live at wingam.com. We are Dayton's home of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Into the end zone goes Chris Olave. KJ Hill, 6-yard touchdown catch. Right sideline and down he goes to the end zone.
WING 1410 Dayton's ESPN Radio. It's the Justin Kinner Show, live here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM. Tweet the show at 1410 Kinner or give us a call at 457-9464. We now send you to the Wing Studios in Kettering. Here's your host, Justin Kinner.
Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow was on Colin Cowherd's show yesterday. And like I said earlier, as much as I don't like the Cincinnati Bengals, I really do like Joe Burrow. I think he says all the right things. He handles things the way that many people wish Baker would have handled things early in his career. And I'm not even talking about from an on-the-field standpoint. I'm talking from a, how to deal with media. I think Baker bought into – I think that Baker's personality was fanned by the media and by the fans' reaction to, because when he would say something kind of exotic a little bit or something over the top, he would get a reaction. And when you give people a reaction to something, they continue to do it. They continue to do it. And that's where the immaturity of Baker Mayfield came into play there. But Joe Burrow is just more of an adult coming into the league than Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield's personality is completely different. If anything, it actually fits Cleveland. Like Baker Mayfield's personality is Cleveland, Kev. Like it just makes sense, it just fits, right? Like the team, like people, that team thrives off of him too. When he makes a big play, everything he did, like his teammates have never thrown him under the bus. Even through his struggles last year, OBJ, who is the number one person everyone looked at that was expecting him to throw Baker under the bus. No, he continued to back him. Every press conference, OBJ was the first one to defend Baker Mayfield. And I give Baker credit because every press conference this year when people were trying to stir it up with OBJ, he was the first one to defend OBJ in that situation. So, but that's the interesting thing. But I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow's responses and how he handles the media. So here's the deal. He was asked about Zac Taylor. I'm not a fan of Zac Taylor coming back for a third year. There's not one thing about Zac Taylor I look at and say, I can see why they're waiting it out. Like I thought about this. When you start looking around the NFL, like when I say John Harbaugh, the first thing you think of is defense. He's won a Super Bowl. He has that adult personality that you just feel like he's in control and that the organization is in good hands. All right. When you think of Stefanski, sure, first-year head coach, but you think of his play calling, his experience, his success at that position with other teams, and he has a personality. He has an identity. You think of Mike Tomlin. You think of the Super Bowls. You think of longevity. You think of what he brings to the table. When I think of Zac Taylor, I'm not being funny here. What? Nothing. There's not one thing that comes to my mind. He didn't do anything at the Rams that warranted him being hired to begin with. And when I think of a guy like Eric Bieniemy, man, things are going all over the job he's done with Patrick Mahomes, the fact that he is not looked at as necessarily an assistant coach. Everyone says the offensive success is Andy Reid 1A and 1B, Eric Bieniemy. Like Bieniemy has an identity. It's very similar to Stefanski. Bieniemy makes perfect sense in Cincinnati. But Joe Burrow goes on this show yesterday on Colin's show and says, you know what? I love Zac Taylor. Well, why, Joe? Why? I need to know why you love Zac Taylor. Because, what did he do? Because everyone's like, well, Joe Burrow had success with Zac Taylor. He threw the ball a lot because you were losing. You were down in games. Of course you were throwing, and he also continued to throw Joe Burrow, dropping back 35 times a game or 30-plus times a game with the worst offensive line in football, continued to air him out. I accused Zac Taylor earlier in the year of Zac Taylor knew damn well that his chances of keeping the job were pretty slim, and he goes, well, if I try to protect Joe Burrow with my play calling, we're going to lose every game because the only way we have a chance of winning is by letting Joe Burrow throw the ball. So I have to continue to let him throw the ball. If I don't let him throw the ball, we are going to go 0-16. And I think he knew that. And if he goes 0-16, that's the nail in the coffin. He's done. Even if it's 2-14 like last year, the nail in the coffin. So I believe Zac Taylor put his needs ahead of Joe Burrow's. He continued to drop Joe Burrow back 30-plus times a game, knowing that offensive line was bad, knowing that he was continuing to get hits. Had he played the full season, he would have set the record for a rookie with the most sacks ever. That's how bad. That's the pace that he was on, Kev. It was bad. So I believe Zac Taylor was coaching for his future more so than coaching for Joe Burrow's future. Continuing to drop him back so many times with that bad offensive line, continuing to put him in harm's way to where if he was confident in his job moving forward, Kev, he would have said, look, I can't change the offensive line's talent. I have to protect him. So I'm going to not call as many passing plays because I need to make sure that we limit how many times he drops back and we risk him getting hit. But he didn't do that, because he only cared about his job. So I need to know from Joe Burrow why. What do you love about Zac Taylor? What does Zac Taylor bring to the table that you feel is better for this team and you moving forward than an Eric Bieniemy? Because you want to know a real leader in the NFL right now is Deshaun Watson. I actually applaud Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is – I love play. I can see some players will be deemed as a cancer in the locker room for calling out the organization. Some organizations need to be called out. Houston is not a good organization. They're quickly moving up the list or down the list as far as good organizations are concerned, and that's even a team that's made the playoffs pretty regularly over the last couple of years, okay? Deshaun Watson said, hey, Eric Bieniemy is the biggest name available for these head coaching vacancies. We have a head coaching vacancy. In fact, everyone and their mom believes that that's the number one landing spot for Eric Bieniemy. Oh, he's going to go where Deshaun Watson is. And yet they don't even interview him. Woo! So what does Deshaun Watson do? Now all of a sudden Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. Why? Because what the Houston Texans did is they signaled to Deshaun Watson, we don't care about winning. We care about being cheap. We care about, we don't want to win. Everyone knows Eric Bieniemy is the number one, target as far as a coach is concerned. And they don't go after him. So you have one quarterback who knows what he's doing. Deshaun Watson knows the landscape of the NFL and knows that if you want to win, you got to go get an Eric Bieniemy. And he calls his team out. Joe Burrow, people think he's being a leader. Oh, he's leading the way. Look at him. He has his coaches back. It's not bad business if you don't have your coaches back because your coach doesn't have the talent to have your back. Because when they start losing games and they keep losing, eventually it's not Zac Taylor's fault. It's going to be Joe Burrow's fault. We're going to start looking at Joe Burrow's record as a starting quarterback and say, well, he has good numbers, but he can't win. And then that's going to be on you. So him supporting Zac Taylor doesn't make any sense. Now, to be fair, where did David Shaw on here? He did say, well, what is he supposed to say? That's a good point as well. If we have a player on and say, what do you think of the Bengals bringing back your head coach? Oh, I think it's a horrible decision. I think it's bad. We're going to lose. I get that too. But I give Deshaun Watson a ton of credit for coming out and saying, trade me. You're not even going to give Bieniemy an interview? And that's what I ripped the Bengals for. And people are like, well, the Texans have a vacancy. Texans don't have a quarterback or don't have a head coach. Just because there's a name on the line of the head coach doesn't mean that they have a head coach either. They should have interviewed Bieniemy as well. They should have never come out the day after the season ended and said, Zac Taylor's our guy. You should have at least interviewed Eric Bieniemy. You should have at least tested the waters to see what was out there. It's frustrating. And I'm not even a Bengals fan. Paul Dehner Jr., he tweeted out about Joe Burrow. This is why when people talk about Taylor is losing the locker room, I don't necessarily buy it. Burrow moves the locker room, and he signs off on Zac Taylor. Guess what, folks? Baker Mayfield signed off on Freddie Kitchens. How'd that work out? Like, young quarterbacks, they don't have – like, Deshaun's been around a little bit. He has a little bit more weight in that room to be able to throw his opinion around, and it, means something. So these young quarterbacks, when Baker Mayfield said, oh, yeah, I love Freddie Kitchens being the head coach, that was a mistake. And Joe Burrow saying the same thing about Zac Taylor, I think, is a mistake, too. And besides, I know that everyone gets real excited when you get your quarterback. I'm sorry. He's not the GM. He's not the owner. He's not in charge. I don't care if he likes it. I don't care if he signs off. I mean, us regular people in our jobs, it doesn't matter what we think about personnel around us. It's up ultimately to the decision maker. So I get it. I like Joe Burrow. I'm not. This isn't me bashing him necessarily because, like David Shaw said, you're right. What is he supposed to say? But come on, the Bengals, this was not a good thing. So I'm curious, Bengals fans who dislike Zac Taylor, does Joe Burrow signing off on him, giving him the stamp of approval, giving him the thumbs up, does that change your mind? It actually scares me even more in that mindset, because to me, Joe Burrow, you got to be selfish. The number one person you should be concerned about is yourself. And I don't know what Zac Taylor has done for him at all to make him feel like he's the head coach of the future. Kev, what do you think?
All right, two things. One, I love both these dudes as quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe and Deshaun Watson. But Deshaun Watson can say that because guess what? He just got paid in the offseason. Yep. So he's secure. So now I can say whatever I want. Y'all got to pay me regardless. Joe Burrow, on the other hand, he just got there and he's coming off an injury. Yeah, he was the first pick, but he ain't get a Deshaun Watson or a Patrick Mahomes contract. So, of course, he's going to say in line with the company line. Like, shoot, the ownership want him. I want him too. Let's do this. Let me get back and let me put up some numbers and hopefully things will be better. And secondly, what if he truly does believe that? What if he believes like, man, I think he's the guy that can get me to this next level?
Well, and again, I'm not being funny. Like, I wasn't trying to be funny with the Baker Mayfield about Freddie Kitchens comment, but Baker Mayfield truly believed Freddie was the guy. Because just like Joe Burrow, who had success with Zac Taylor, technically Baker had success with Freddie Kitchens that rookie year. Like, and he did. So, but it's like big picture, though. What success did Zac Taylor have the first year? Absolutely none. Technically, didn't even have success this year. I don't care what anybody's like. Joe Burrow looks good, but that's because of Joe Burrow's overall talent. I mean, big picture. But Baker Mayfield signed off on Freddie Kitchens, and everyone was like, well, I don't really like the hire, but if Baker seems happy with it, then I'm happy with it. And I think that's what we're getting with the Bengals now. Well, I don't know. 6-25-1's not good, but if Joe Burrow's happy, I'm happy. I've seen this movie before, and it doesn't end well. There's not a sequel. All right, there's going to be a new number one. There's going to be a new lead actor coming up around the corner, and it's not going to be Zac Taylor. I promise you that much. So, and I just think that with the chance to get Eric Bieniemy,
Are you sure about that?
actually, no, I'm not, because of this organization.
I was about to say,
they
like-
operate different. They operate different. But no, I know I've been known to just lay it in on this Cincinnati Bengals franchise, and I kind of am, but it's not so much on Joe Burrow. Technically, Bengals fans, you should be on my side on this one. I don't know why you wouldn't be. But big picture, I like Joe Burrow, but I think that they're bringing Zac Taylor back again. You're wasting your number two. You only have 4 years to really hit the ground running with this before. I mean, look at the Texans. Once they gave Deshaun that money, there's a reason you've had more players go out than come in. And it's going to be difficult. By the way, when you said earlier that Deshaun has leverage, I don't look at him as having any leverage. I think that the team has leverage. I don't think the team wants him. The team knows he's good, but the team also knows what's the point of having a good quarterback that we've paid all this money to. We can't put one piece around him, and all we're going to be talking about for the next couple of years is how many games we're losing, but our centerpiece, the quarterback. If I'm the Texans, I'm on the phone with the Jaguars. I'm on the phone with every team in the NFL. What can you offer me? I'm calling the Jaguars. I'm calling the Jets. I'm calling the Falcons. I'm calling the Bengals. I'm calling the Browns. I'm calling everybody. And there's really, I can't think of, outside of the Chiefs, who else, Kev, is considered a lock-it quarterback in the NFL right now? I mean, Aaron Rodgers, technically, maybe. Who?
Buffalo. Josh Allen.
Yeah, possibly. I still will take Deshaun over Josh Allen's 1 year right now, but Josh Allen looks like he's on that pace to be one of those untouchable guys. Baker's not untouchable. If I'm the Cleveland Browns and the Texans are willing to do a deal with you, bye, Baker. Love you. I'm a big Baker supporter, but see ya.
Yeah, I mean, there's more teams that would take Deshaun than not. But the question is, for Jacksonville, do you give up the number one pick and other assets to get Deshaun Watson?
Yes.
Do you give up Baker Mayfield and your number one pick for Deshaun Watson?
Yes. I don't even think know me. I love Baker Mayfield, but yes, absolutely. It's not going to happen, but yes, absolutely.
As much as I love Deshaun Watson, I don't think that would be a smart move for the Browns. I just don't think that would be the play for them. But Jacksonville, oh yeah, let's do this.
Well, where they have nobody?
I'm saying Jacksonville. But I'm saying the Browns. Browns, like, you're trading your quarterback and you're 11-5
for a quarterback that you know is better,
who has a crazy contract, like you talk about. Baker's on a rookie deal, and Baker's deal that he's going to sign ain't going to be a Deshaun Watson deal. So that means you're going to have to remove pieces.
So moving forward, right now with the progression of Baker, you can win with Baker. You get to the playoffs with Baker. I believe he's good enough to win playoff games. Don't know if he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback yet. We know Deshaun is, even though he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but we know with that type of arm and his playmaking ability, absolutely. I go all in on Deshaun. Again, it's not going to happen. The Browns, I wouldn't even.
If you're Deshaun Watson, where do you want to go? If you could pull the strings.
Miami, Flores. I would love to play for Flores. The Dolphins. I think make a lot. And if I'm the Dolphins too, I do it, and I include Tua in the deal. And the Texans could say, well, man, with this draft pick and all this extra cap space we have now, we can build around Tua. We have all this extra money now, and they can start over from scratch with Tua moving forward. I don't think that's a terrible idea either. But the Dolphins are already a 10-win team that didn't make the playoffs. And what's ironic enough about that is that pick that the Houston would be trading for was their original pick to begin with. Yeah. So I'm just saying it's something to consider. They can even get Justin Fields. The Texans can go get Justin Fields if they wanted to.
That's not a bad play. That's not a bad play to Dolphins. But if I'm Deshaun, I'm trying to get to San Francisco with that defense, with the playmakers, with the offensive mind that's behind the San Francisco offense, that offensive line. I think he will flourish to like Joe Montana level.
You're talking a short window, though, because with that contract, just like when you brought it up with the Browns, that's not going to be sustained long term. I mean, they're going to have to pick.
If you cash in with one Super Bowl, it was all worth it.
But that's why I say Cleveland. Like Cleveland. But if Deshaun goes in for 2 years, if he has Jarvis Landry, OBJ, Higgins, and you have Hooper, and you have that offensive line, and you have Chubb, and you have Kareem Hunt for 2 years, the Browns they're a Super Bowl contender right away with Deshaun Watson.
49ers was just at the Super Bowl.
What's that?
49ers was just in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. And they had a lead late in that game. But you're the one. I'm not advocating for the Niners to get him, but I think he would be.
No, I'm saying, like you drop him in there. Oh, it's on. It's on.
But for a short window, that no matter where he goes, if he goes to That's why Jacksonville probably makes the most sense because you could build around him from there.
Right.
He goes to Jacksonville, not a playoff contender, but you have cap space. That some of that's going to be eaten up by his contract, but you could still start to bring in free agents and piece around him, and he gets to start over. They get to start over. They have a proven star.
And Urban Meyer recruited him.
Yep. So, I mean, we've heard the Dabo rumors of the NFL in the past, which I think is full. I think his eyes are on Alabama down the road whenever that time comes. But interesting. Bradley Horn says, Watson to Pittsburgh. Bradley, be quiet. That ain't gonna happen. I don't want him anywhere near Pittsburgh. Stay away from Pittsburgh. Go away.
Long.
That would be pretty impressive.
I mean, that would be.
That would be sick.
Look, I would love it. But I don't. The fact that the way the salary cap works in the NFL, they're going to have to extend Ben Roethlisberger's contract in order to sign their own free agents on the team. I don't think they have the cap space to even trade for Deshaun Watson his contract. I would love it. Oh, I would love it. Oh, how much would I love it? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the San Francisco, even the Dolphins, are in play for him. That would be awesome for Deshaun to get to an organization that actually has their eyes on winning. You know, everything that they did with the previous head coach. And matter of fact, he was also the GM. He just train wrecked that organization into the ground, man. And it's sad to see, but it is what it is. That's the NFL. He ain't the first quarterback to be, or NFL player to be led astray and just like left out here in the wind saying, what happened to my team?
This would be interesting. It wouldn't happen just because I don't think that like we see this in the NBA, like LeBron in certain divisions, like LeBron stars don't want to go to where they have to compete. Like they want to go someplace where they're going to have to compete with LeBron for one series a year in an NBA finals, right? The Raiders, I'm seeing the people bring up the Raiders. Deshaun's not going to go to where he has to face Patrick Mahomes twice a year. Like, we would love it as fans, but like, it's not that he doesn't have that competitive juice, but it's one of those where it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, your goal is to get to a Super Bowl, so it's either to where you have to meet him in an AFC title game or meet him in the Super Bowl. I'm looking at the NFC. I mean, what about the Falcons? I don't see him with the Falcons, but the Panthers could be in play for this. Another team, the New England Patriots could be in play there. How about that? That would be really interesting, I think.
If you're the Texans, do you trade them in the AFC or you send them to the NFC so you ain't got to see them tear up the AFC?
The Texans right now have, like, that's the thing. Like, them keeping him makes zero sense. Like, I've actually thought about this before. I thought about this even before Deshaun even came out and said he wanted to be traded. I'm like, Houston's not digging themselves out of this. Like, Deshaun is like, that's why I always say that I'm not ripping people for going to get their money. And he did nothing wrong. They offered it. They wanted to make him the number 2 highest paid quarterback in the history of the league. Fine. But it didn't help that the team was already in financial troubles. Now they're really in financial troubles. They're not building their way out of that. So Houston, the only way out of this is moving on from Deshaun Watson. And the good thing for Deshaun Watson, he gets to take that money with him wherever he goes. But he can go to smarter organizations that know how to manage around that. But we've seen how tough it is. I mean, look at the Seahawks. All right, that's a team that has a very, very good quarterback, but he's paid. And it's been difficult for them to get back to where they were during his rookie deal when they were able to allocate those dollars elsewhere and create that defense. The defense took a hit once they had to pay the quarterback, and that's kind of where we're at with that right now.
And another thing about Houston and the Deshaun Watson situation is you look at the landscape of the NFL and you wonder, how long will it be like this? How long will Kansas City run like this? Because, how long was the Patriots run? Like, 2 decades? Like, dude, like if KC has a decade run, is it all gonna be for naught? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so difficult, man. But you don't ever want to like fan scared or run your organization scared. So they have the chip. Now, Deshaun, if he wants to become this guy, he can force his way out. Like Jalen Ramsey, he forced his way out of Jacksonville before. Like, that really hasn't been done in the NFL.
Gakwe and all those guys.
Yeah, like people have forced their way out, but they always turn into the quote unquote bad guy. And from everything we know about Deshaun Watson, good guy.
Like Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah.
He was not the bad guy. He was not wrong at all for wanting out of Cincinnati.
I don't think he gets traded.
I mean, the right decision would be to trade him, but that's why he's not going to be traded then if that's the case. But I think from a business standpoint, Houston's they're looking at money. Paying him to lose is not good business for them. having the money to go get players to kind of rebuild, that gives them the cushion to lose for a couple of years while they are in the midst of rebuilding, as far as that goes.
I wonder who his agent is, because maybe his agent can do some talking and some negotiating, because that's a good point. Like, you guys can get a first-round pick and a second-round pick and a player. Y'all can start over. Y'all can send Deshaun wherever he needs to go. I don't know, man. I just don't think they're going to do it, man. Like, it's a lot of egos involved, too. I mean, the owner, he inherited the team from his dad. So, like you want to tell the people of Houston, like, hey, yeah, we're going to take our star franchise quarterback and trade him. Oh, yeah, by the way, James Harden's on the trading block. Like, like, it's going to be some smoke in the city.
Man, who would have thought an organization where someone's kid inherits the franchise and just literally runs it into the ground? Where have I seen that movie before? I feel like I'm watching it on loop, just an hour south from here.
The Knicks.
But David Shaw says, so he would have to face Allen or Wilson if he went to the Dolphins or Niners. Again, two very good quarterbacks. They ain't Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen, it's not Patrick Mahomes, and as good as Wilson is, he's not Patrick Mahomes. And Wilson, we're going to rank our quarterbacks of who's facing the most pressure. I have him high in my list of quarterbacks who's facing pressure this year, because you can't be Russell Wilson. Every year we come and talk about how he's the most underappreciated quarterback, and then you just keep losing in the playoffs, Eventually, you got to kind of come through again outside of that. Anyways, we'll get into that coming up around the corner. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. This originally started because of Joe Burrow's comments regarding Zac Taylor. I mean, I guess I like that Joe Burrow's happy that he signs off on the head coach, but we've seen QBs sign off on head coaches in the past that they think that they want to play for. Baker Mayfield was he was super pumped and excited to play for Freddie Kitchens. That didn't work out well. And Freddie at least won more games than Freddie Kitchens is probably a better head coach than Zac Taylor. Freddie won more games than Zac Taylor. So there's that. Where did the other one go? Brian Schwederman on Facebook says Zac Taylor won his job back when he beat the Steelers. As a Bengals fan, it is horrible. As soon as they beat the Steelers, we won the game but lost out on draft position and coach like KC's offensive coordinator. Joe Burrow is under their thumb. He will say what he needs to get paid. And by the way, beating the Steelers, yes, that was big, but I thought the same thing when they started winning those games. That's the worst thing that could have happened, because they made up their mind. See, they're playing hard for him. They're playing hard for themselves. These guys are auditioning for their next job too. But anyways, all right, we'll be back in a moment. We'll get to our conversation with James Rapine on the other side again, chatting with him about what's next for the Bengals as they head into the offseason, preparing for the draft and the mistake they made in bringing back Zac Taylor, not even trying to go after Eric Bieniemy. I get it. If the Cincinnati Bengals went after Eric Bieniemy and he turned them down and then you kept Zac Taylor, I would still probably poke fun and say, see, no one wants to go there, but at least you tried. But I don't respect an organization who doesn't even try to go get Eric Bieniemy. And to be fair, that's why Deshaun Watson wants out. Now, I heard the story today. Deshaun Watson called Patrick Mahomes, said, man, Eric Bieniemy, he's the real deal. Patrick Mahomes
man, that'd be awesome. No, go ahead.
And the Texans not only
that's incompetence, man.
It's not even not hiring him. It's not even interviewing him. All the teams that have coaching openings right now, they're the only one that didn't even interview him. They just passed on interviewing him. What? Like that doesn't make any sense. And I think that's dumb. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals just announcing that Zac Taylor's coming back without even attempting. Again, I would have respected the Bengals had they at least attempted. Hey, let's go kick the tires on it. Let's see if we can, get him to come here. And if he's willing to come here, we can get him, $7-8 mil. Boom. But if not, all right, we keep Zac Taylor. But the fact that you just put the ring on the finger and didn't even try to talk to him, come on. And trust me, it's the only – I shouldn't even use a ring with Bengals, man. That's that – yeah, anyways. We'll be back in a moment, folks. Don't go anywhere. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash next.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy, a high near 35. Tonight's also going to be mostly cloudy, a low around 25. And tomorrow will be partly cloudy, a high near 38. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane. 98% of their customers recommend Cullet. If you wouldn't recommend your current supplier, check them out at culletpropane.com.
You're ready to get back into yoga, so you order the essentials. A non-slip mat, yoga blocks to keep balance, and an exercise ball. And you use your Bank of America Cash Rewards credit card. choosing to earn 3% cash back on online shopping and up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member, which you put towards your most essential yoga gear. Noise-canceling headphones.
Welcome. Take a deep breath. Breathe.
Apply for yours at bankofamerica.com/more rewarding. Copyright 2020 Bank of America Corporation.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
Hey, how'd you like to get paid to work out? Yes, I said get paid to work out. Now you can with the ISSA, the global leader in personal fitness certification. If you're interested in a money-making career in fitness as a personal trainer, now is your time because the ISSA is guaranteeing you will get a job. That's right. There's a huge demand for certified personal trainers right now. So once you get ISSA certified, they guarantee you'll get a job. Just text AMP to 323232 now to get started for free. You do everything at your own pace and 100% online. Live your life on your terms. Get certified and train like you want. Full-time at a gym at home or as a side hustle. Whatever works for you. Don't wait another day to start your career in fitness. Get certified and start making money fast. Guaranteed. Just text AMP to 323232 right now to get started with your ISSA certification for free. Text the word AMP to 323232.
Without more licensed workers, Gary's roofing business might hit its ceiling.
Hey, that new contract just got pushed up. We are going to need all hands on deck to make this happen.
Hey, Gary, you booked me on that other job next week.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Roosters would like to thank all of our loyal guests and all the loyal Buckeye fans for your support this year. Because of you, we've been able to stay open and keep our award-winning team employed. Our team members go above and beyond and are dedicated to providing you and your family the safest dining experience possible while still providing a fun, casual atmosphere to relax, laugh, and enjoy our award-winning food. Roosters, the official wing sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places what you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larrick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer's selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. Selection from budget to the best. Really, desks from $50 to $5,000. Filing cabinets from $25 to $500. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larrick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to go anywhere else. Larrick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 McOil Avenue, Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larrick's, continuing the tradition.
Listen to this radio station on the radio.com app anytime, anywhere. Listen to more than 300 stations along with more than 3,000 podcasts from your home area or across the U.S. all free.
With the radio.com app.
Staples has everything you need to start the year right, like home office furniture, the latest tech and organizational supplies, and all at amazing prices. Get a fresh start this year with big savings from Staples.
He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer. And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots. He's Dayton's own Keith Byers. Hang out with him every Monday at noon on the Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio.
James Rapine with Sports Illustrated covers the Bengals. James, welcome in, man. How are you?
I'm well, Justin. How are you, man?
Good. I appreciate you taking time and hanging out with us. So Joe Burrow just went on Colin Cowherd's show a little bit, and if I misquoted this, you can correct me, but he says that he should be ready to go by week 1 of next season. Does that mean ready to go for training camp and preseason, or is that practicing around week 1? What are the reports that you're hearing as far as timeline for the return of Joey B?
I think his plan and his goal has always been to be on the field week 1 playing and active. And obviously there's a lot of hurdles that he has to go through between now and then. But the surgery went well. Dr. Neil Alatrash did that, performed that surgery on December 2nd. And the initial prognosis was good. And so far, I think based on what we're hearing, I don't think Joe would just say that, but you've heard his dad speak out a bit. And it does feel like it's realistic to expect him out there, maybe practice a little bit during camp. And then, maybe hopefully a preseason game. I think back to 2005 when Carson Palmer had that devastating knee injury. And he came back in week 3 of the preseason. And they are similar injuries, Justin. So, I'm no doctor, but they were pretty severe. And he came back week 3, threw 3 touchdowns. It was the biggest preseason game, I think, in Bengals history. He threw 3 touchdowns against the Packers. And Cincinnati erupted. So hopefully Burrow can do the same. Maybe not throw 3 touchdowns because it doesn't matter, but go out there and play at least one game in the preseason in hopes of returning in week 1.
Now, there's another Joe on the team. He goes by the name of Joe Nixon, big contract in the offseason. Only played in 6 games last year due to that injury. What's the latest with him?
He's going to be in Cincinnati next week and start his rehab of that foot. They didn't feel comfortable putting him back out there. He was less than 100%. Really weird injury. Stayed off injured reserve week 7 through 10, and then they put him on injured reserve. And it was just a really unique week situation. So hopefully he can get back to 100% because specifically early in the year, next year, I think you're going to want to see how Joe responds, how he is, how that knee is doing. And, even if he is 100%, he might not be fully confident to run and carry the offense, throw 45 times and all that stuff. And so if you can get Nixon and really unlock him, I think that's sort of the key to taking some pressure off of number 9.
Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, you got T. Higgins, obviously. So that's the kind of the trio moving forward, the big 3 for the Bengals that they're going to be building around moving forward. Previous big name receiver, or is actually technically still with the team, is AJ Green. Have we seen the last of him in Cincinnati? Obviously, the big focus has been on the retention of Zac Taylor and what his staff is going to be looking like moving forward. But what have you heard, if anything, since the season ended in regards to the future of AJ Green?
I haven't heard a ton, but I think we kind of know. It felt like the farewell in week 17. They tried to get him the touchdown to tie Chad Johnson's all-time record for Bengals record for touchdown receptions at 66. AJ, if he doesn't return, will be second now at 65. And it just feels like it's the end. That doesn't mean it is. There might be a number where they come to an agreement. Maybe the Bengals don't get the free agent receiver they're targeting because they're going to need another receiver. That is a need on this team. A lot of people talk about T. Higgins, obviously, and Tyler Boyd. What do you have after those 2 guys? And, you got a young guy in Joe Burrow. Everyone's really excited about him, but they need another threat there. So I think they'll find that, whether it's in free agency, the draft, maybe both. And that could mean, and probably likely means, AJ ends up elsewhere. I think he should try to make his way to a contender and really latch on. New Orleans makes sense to me. I think the Green Bay Packers, Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll see. But if I'm Green, I'm trying to find a way to get to a winner. And not only that, but have a decent role. Because he didn't really click. Played all 16 games this year. Never really clicked in Zac Taylor's offense. Couldn't really click with Joe Burrow. And I think Green has something left, even though it didn't really look like it from a numbers perspective this year. So it'll be interesting to see what his market's like in a few months.
The Bengals made some free agency splashes on defense last year, picking up former Buckeye Von Bell and also Mackenzie Alexander. What are some of their targets this upcoming offseason?
Me personally, I think that they need to go all in on offense and really just give Joe Burrow everything that he could ever want or ask for, because they did him a disservice last offseason by not adding to the offensive line. That's got to be their number one priority, is not turning the offensive line into a competent one, which has kind of been their goal, to piece it together and be competent in the trenches the past couple of years, which they haven't been, by the way. They failed that goal. They need to make that a position of strength and a unit of strength. And so you talk about free agency. I think they should go out and get a proven tackle, whether it's a left tackle or a right tackle. And maybe you still draft Penny Sewell with the 5th pick if he falls there. I'm not saying you don't, but go out and get some proven veterans, guys that can really help you protect the franchise and protect the future of the franchise and keep them upright. And so when you do that and you add a weapon or two to this offense, well, then you really get to see if Zac Taylor's the guy you thought he was when you hired him a couple of years ago. Obviously, the record says otherwise, but you're keeping him around for a 3rd season for a reason. Burrow seems to think he's the guy. So give him the personnel necessary to score 35 in Baltimore, to go to Pittsburgh and outscore Ben Roethlisberger and company. I think that needs to be their key. As far as defense, there's no doubt they need pass rush. That their linebackers need to develop. But at the same time, are they one piece away or are they 10 pieces away from that defense really being a high-level defense? They need to stay healthy next year for sure, add a couple pieces. But they invested in defense last offseason. I think they need to give Burrow the necessary pieces in the trenches and elsewhere to really give him a shot in 2021.
We know Mike Brown's is a patient owner, I guess, if that's how you want to describe him, obviously, with the ups and downs, during the Marvin Lewis run, and obviously now with Zac Taylor's 6-25-1 start to the first couple of years of his career. But the one thing that's interesting to me is I start looking at the projection of the AFC North and where the Bengals fall into that. I'm a Browns homer. I get labeled for that all the time, but I'm looking at the Browns offense that's locked in for the next couple of years. I mean, their O-line, they have all their main core guys locked in for 2 to 3 more years. Receivers, they're good. Tight ends, they're locked up. Running backs, they just wrapped up. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb's their next focus, and Baker has a chance Sunday to earn, the money that he's going to be asking for in an extension coming up. So all their money this offseason is going to be spent on that defense, and we know how good they are offensively, but they're going to be better. They're an 11-win team with no defense. They're going to add to defense this offseason, so you have to assume they're just only going to get better. The Ravens have MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson. They're going to be the Ravens still moving forward. The Steelers are the Steelers. So we talk about all the offseason moves that the Bengals could make, but what's a realistic jump for them? To me, without sounding like I'm talking smack, even though I do a lot of it, they're still a last place team to me in the AFC North next year. I don't know what else they could do, but I'm with you. If there's no plausible moves out there to jump teams in the AFC North, the big focus needs to be, even if we're the worst defensive team in the league next year, I agree with you, James. The one thing they need to make sure of is that offensive line is going to protect him. He's going to have every receiver he needs. He's going to have the running game he needs. That's the big thing, is making sure Joe Burrow is protected and taken care of. And people can laugh all they want, but the Browns focused on that. That was their focus. We're going to give Baker everything he needs so he has no excuse possible moving forward. And look at this year. Great offense, bad defense. That needs to be the Bengals mentality moving forward. Give Burrow everything he needs before focusing on the defensive side, something that I ripped them for last year.
Because if they do that, Justin, they can beat any of those teams in the division because they might have the edge at quarterback every week, including Lamar. Like, I think most people would probably take healthy Joe Burrow, what he did, over Baker. Right? And that might sound insane, but I think that. The same thing goes for Ben Roethlisberger and the way he's played this year moving forward. I mean, we saw 10 games of Joe Burrow, and he was covering up so many flaws on this team. He was hiding things, and that's what elite franchise quarterbacks do. And I'm not saying he's there yet, but he showed that potential. And the window is now. I get it's a tough division, but the rookie contract, the reason the Browns were able to do that and pay Jack Conklin and pay Kareem Hunt and, have Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry making all that money that they're making is because Baker's on a rookie deal. And so they were able to do that and lock up Myles Garrett and do those things. Well, the Bengals have to do that. And they spent big money on the defense last year. Didn't really work out. You hope that the health, as much as anything, helps the defensive side of the ball. But flip it, if Joe Burrow's upright and he has another weapon or two with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon, it doesn't really matter who he's playing. They should put up numbers and be competitive in a really tough division. And I think that's got to be the goal. Because, heck, maybe the North is the same way next year, and 3 of the 4 teams do qualify for the playoffs, and maybe the Bengals are one of them. And if Zac Taylor, it's certainly a prove-it type year for him. I think his seat is hot entering the 2021 season. So if you get off to a rough start, you might be talking about an interim coach. So they need to win right away, and they need to be aggressive this offseason.
The Bengals have the number 5 pick in the NFL draft. Is it Michael Parsons? Is it Joe Burrow's former teammate, Jamar Chase? Is it the tackle from Oregon, Swell? Who's it going to be?
If it's Michael Parsons, then Bengals fans should be upset about that because they drafted a linebacker on their list of needs. They drafted 3 linebackers last year, and they're developing those guys. And I get it, if you get a special talent, but that would be a tough sell, I think. For a lot of fans. I think it's got to be something on the offensive side. It's a key theme here. There will not be all of those weaknesses on the Bengals, specifically on offense. 1 or 2 of them will still be there when they're on the clock at the number 5 pick. And there's going to be a guy who's the best player on the board that fills that need. So Penny Sewell, if he falls to 5, probably going to fill one of your tackle spots in a need there, even if you go out and sign a veteran. You can move Jonah Williams inside the guard. Let's move to wide receiver. Let's say Devontae Smith is the top player on your board at that spot. Well, guess what? He would be perfect in an offense with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Jamar Chase, oh, wait, he was catching 20 touchdowns from Joe Burrow when he won the Heisman. So that fits as well. So I think they're in a position to really land it. And that's the picking fifth. If two quarterbacks go in the top five, and I think that's extremely realistic, then they can land one of those three guys. I also think a trade back is on the table, but the Bengals really have to find a way to get some elite talent on offense, I think, specifically in the trenches, and then adding another weapon for Burrow. So that would be my focus with the fifth pick. And if they move back, then it opens up different things and different options for sure.
We have James Rapine, Sports Illustrated, covers the Cincinnati Bengals. James, last thing here, and we'll let you go. And by the way, right away, people on Facebook, James, a receiver, no way. I got James's back on this mainly because as to what we said, I'm not a fan of drafting offensive linemen unless you are rebuilding, as in, you're going to be losing for a few years. Once you get your quarterback, especially in the draft, the clock's ticking. And you've wasted the first year. And next year, who knows what the projection for the Bengals will be, but you can't afford to draft another offensive lineman and hope that he develops. You got to go out and get, Tooney is going to be a free agent from the Patriots. That's a guy they need to look at. I'd rather than put money in the free agents on the offensive line and draft the talent. Look, receivers make impacts right away. We see those skill players make impacts right away. The Bengals don't have time to develop an offensive line. They need to go get an offensive line. So I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah, and the problem with, just saying wide receiver, well, yeah, they may go out and they might pay Curtis Samuel, and if they do that, then fine. But this idea that the Bengals are set at receiver, it's Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and literally no one else. Auden Tate missed a lot of the year with an injury. Alex Erickson, you're not banking on him as a receiver. Mike Thomas, you're bringing him back. Hey, he was up and down. I mean, there's really no legitimate number three option. And why do that when I'm not totally sold on T. Higgins being a number one? He might be a 1A. So if you can get a Jamar Chase, you can get, think about who you're competing with. It's not just this division. It's the Kansas City Chiefs over the next 3 to 4 years. The Bengals should try to win on Burrow's rookie deal. Yep. You're going to have some kind of elite offense, find a way to get an elite offense. If you're going to do that, you got the quarterback. You got to put the pieces around him.
All right, this will be the last thing. The Bengals, I'm not a fan of Zac Taylor. I find that move interesting to bring him back. However, it's not that they're bringing him back. It's the timing of which they announced it. James, the season ends Monday while everyone's announcing who they're firing. The Bengals are proudly announcing who they're bringing back. And have they announced this maybe a month from now that they're going to keep him, that means to me they'd at least look around and at least see what's out there. Eric Bieniemy, I wish they would have done everything they could to try to get in there. You talk about the offense being the focus. Imagine if they could have, well, for one, did it the first time, but get Bieniemy here with Joe Burrow, with T. Higgins, with Boyd, with Joe Mixon, with hopefully a rebuilt offensive line and maybe a Jamar Chase, as you talked about, or whoever. Again, announcing that Zac Taylor's coming back, I might have been fine with that a month from now had they tried to look around. And just because they want certain guys doesn't mean that they'll definitely come here. But I did find it interesting that they didn't even attempt to look around. I'm still think that the coaching is going to be a concern moving forward. What say you?
Absolutely, it's a concern, and it's a concern until he shows otherwise. There's 1-14-1 on the record on the road. Record that's awful. He's been awful in one-score games, and he's had decent quarterback play. Before Burrow got injured, outside of 3 games from Ryan Finley, which he was the one who decided to bench Andy Dalton for Finley. He had Andy Dalton, and then he had Joe Burrow. That's pretty decent. So it's not like he's dealing with just really, really bad quarterback play. And so that combined with the record, it's tough. And I think he enters 2021 on the hot seat, and it's really similar. And I know the record's different. He has 5 more wins and a tie than Hugh Jackson, but 1-31 when the Browns decided to bring him back for a third season. If he didn't get off to a hot start right away and win right away, it was over. And I'm not saying it's that type of pressure, but it's close. It really is, especially if the Bengals spend money on a Tooney, if they spend money on some of these guys that they can add in free agency to make this team a better unit and more competitive, which I expect them to do. I've heard they're going to spend on the offensive line in the trenches. We'll see if that happens in free agency, but I think that's their plan.
All right, good stuff. James Rapine, Sports Illustrated, covers the Cincinnati Bengals. James, thanks so much for your time, man. Every week I'm like, I need to get James on soon. Because we talked in the preseason, and then here we are 18 weeks later. I'm like, what the hell? I never even brought him on during the season. So there you go. So we even had a Mo Egger appearance before we had you on. So there you go. But
settle in for me. It's all right.
Not settling for anyone. I just said every week. Yeah. Hey, James, thanks so much, man. Take care. Appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas.
Later.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hi, I'm Tom Connors. Went to Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar February 6, 2019. Nothing worked before. Left there and never smoked again. Amazing. Easy, affordable, and guaranteed. A year later, with my wife, Michelle, attended Mark Patrick's weight loss seminar. She lost 18 pounds, and I lost 43 in 8 weeks.
It's true. He smoked 2 packs a day, and nothing worked until Mark Patrick hypnosis. Now we're losing weight together, eating healthy, full on half the food, crazy, enjoying exercising. Who would have believed Mark Patrick hypnosis really works?
It's amazing. I can breathe again. My blood pressure went down, and I've got so much energy.
So much energy.
And look great.
Join Mark Patrick's hypnosis seminar and lose the weight, stop smoking, or end anxiety for only $49.99 guaranteed or your money back. Because of coronavirus, seminar now online live Saturday, January 9th for Dayton. Area details at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
Everyone loves shopping online. Well, I'm going to tell you what I tell my golf buddies when they buy clubs. Stop searching for coupon codes. Download Capital One Shopping to your computer. Capital One Shopping instantly searches for available coupon codes and automatically applies them at checkout. Plus, it's free, and you don't even need a Capital One card to use it. That's like hitting a hole in one without even trying. Capital One Shopping. It's kind of genius. What's in your wallet?
Savings and available coupons vary.
My little girl is always getting into something. That's why we use new Tide Hygienic Clean.
Dad, I went exploring.
You look like you were in a swamp.
I was under the porch.
Now I'm more worried about what I can't see.
There are critters and mud and magical creatures.
Good thing Tide Hygienic Clean removes the visible and invisible dirt.
I'm going to the aquatic kingdom.
Have fun. If you've got to be certain it's clean, it's got to be Tide Hygienic Clean.
Pros, Lowe's offers commercial cleaning supplies from top brands like Clorox, Zep, and Rubbermaid to help you stay clean and safe. Shop Lowe'sForPros.com and choose delivery or pickup in store. Lowe's, the new home for pros, U.S. only.
Guns it long down the right side, ball in the air toward the end zone, and that ball is going to be and the Buckeyes get it. Tyvis Powell, he goes racing up and is tackled at the 30-yard line, and the king of the SEC has fallen. This is the voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels. Join us Monday night as Ohio State will take on Alabama for the national championship. We'll be on the air beginning at 6:30 p.m. with the AEP Energy Buckeye pregame show from Learfield IMG College on the Ohio State Sports Network, presented by the James.
College football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Fire Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We're going to rank all 12 NFL wildcard quarterbacks coming up here top of the hour. We're going to rank them from the quarterback facing the most pressure to the quarterback facing the least pressure. So that's coming up around the corner. Keep that in mind. That's about 9 minutes from now. We'll dive into that to open up hour number 3. We have our obviously our score predictions, our predictions for the Steelers and the Browns wild card matchup on Sunday night. So we're looking forward to that coming up around the corner as well. Some other breaking news over the last half hour or so, and this shouldn't be that breaking. We knew that the details were being ironed out, but Jim Harbaugh will not be in the NFL in 2021. He has signed a 5-year extension with that team up north. And, well, this is a huge day for Buckeye fans because we'll see if that winning streak continues. And I think we all anticipate that it will. But, you know, I don't know, man. I don't get it. I'm glad we're not Michigan fans. I'm glad that that's not the team that we follow. I'm glad that I wasn't born into a life where I have to follow that team because I have no clue what they're thinking. Like, I don't think Jim Harbaugh's a bad coach, Kev, by any means, but I also just think that, hey, it's stale. Your product is stale. A lot of times coaches need a reset. I think he needs a reset. I thought the NFL would have been a perfect reset for him. I just don't get it. I don't get why Michigan thought that, hey, we need to keep him. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I get why the Bengals kept Zac Taylor. They're cheap. You are who, you get what you pay for. They don't want to spend money. That's probably why they didn't want to go after Eric Bieniemy, Kev. They don't want to spend money. And that's honestly what it comes down to. With Michigan, it's not about the money. You've been overpaying him for years. So I just don't get it. I don't know what he has done. Also, he's won games. They win a lot of games. In fact, he's won more games there than previous coaching staffs at that program. He's having a lot of success there, technically. But the stuff that matters, the rivalry games, Big Ten championships. He didn't even play in the Big Ten title game.
Right.
Like, I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying that. I don't know. I don't get it. There's not one thing that he has done that I'm like, oh, definitely they're going to bring him back. Outside of the fact that I feel like they don't feel like they can't do anything better. They can't get anyone better. That's honestly what it comes down to. Like that, you ever had that friend that just keeps getting cheated on over and over and over, and they just keep going back to her and keep going back to her.
She's hot, man.
Yeah, I guess. Is Harbaugh the hot girl in this situation? But no, like, we all have that one buddy that just continues to stay in that stupid relationship that you just make fun of him and make fun of him for. Like, what are you doing? Like, all she does is she embarrasses you. All she does is cheat on you, and you keep going back. Why? That's Michigan with Harbaugh. Like, it doesn't make any damn sense to me, that one little bit.
Yeah, glad I ain't them. We got a couple Michigan listeners. Shaw, how do you feel about this situation? Are they transitioning into a basketball school? Like, I don't know. The basketball team undefeated. Shout out to Juwan Howard.
I've never bought into the basketball school, football school mindset. I literally think they have zero to do with one another. I've never understood that. I've never understood. They don't even play. That has nothing to do with one another. I've never understood that theory. He doesn't want to go there because it's a basketball school. He doesn't want to go there because it's a football school. I'm like, what does that even mean? He wasn't good. If you go someplace, you could win one way or another. The basketball success isn't going to keep you from, having success. Like, I don't think Duke football isn't big because the basketball program's so big. Like, if anything, the basketball program puts the school branding on the map to where you should be. The Duke brand, you should be able to take that into any living room of any sport, and it should have a little substance to it that you should be able to recruit. But I've never understood that.
Really? I think they think it's a caring thing. Like, they don't care about football at Duke. They care about basketball. They don't care about football at North Carolina. They care about basketball. Here in Ohio, we pretend to care about basketball. We pretend to care about the Buckeye football team. Basketball team. We don't really care about the football team. But that's an act that they care about the basketball team, because no one pays the Buckeye basketball team attention until, like, hey, man, hold on. What do you mean we're 8-8 in the Big Ten? They don't pay any attention until after the bowl game. And then watch. Come Monday, after that's all said and done, win or lose, Wednesday when they got a game or whatever, and people will finally start looking at the record and start watching the team. Like, what's going on here? Because they don't really care. They don't care.
But that's a sport popularity thing. That's not. College basketball is not as big as college football.
But not in North Carolina.
But if if Ohio State basketball was number one in the country, they would. Holtman's first year when they were right there at the top of the run, everyone was paying attention because he always kicks ass in the non-conference. Is once conference play starts, it appears he's diluted. But that's because you have all but two teams were going to make the NCAA tournament last year. That's how good the conference, and they just beat up on one another, and that's why you can't get a good feel for them. But I know when I was in high school growing up, Ohio State basketball, that felt as big as football.
Really?
That felt that when you had Greg Oden and Michael Conley and those guys, that was huge. It wasn't bigger than football. I will never argue it's bigger than football. It was not bigger than, but no, like,
I'm joking.
I remember being at state tournament that year for high school, and thousands of people waited outside the shop. Like, it was a ton of people that waited outside the shop because they had beat Tennessee that night. Mm-hmm. And then they came back, and thousands of people waited outside the arena that night to welcome them back. Like, it was huge. Not bigger than football. Never argued that. But I've just never bought into the whole, that Ohio State can't be a basketball school because of football. Well, no, they're not a basketball school. They're a football school. They'll always be a football school. But I think the connotation of, they're a football school, so that means basketball doesn't matter.
Okay, I get what you're saying. It
matters. Like, Chris Holman didn't go to Ohio State. He went to Ohio State because it matters. Like, basketball matters there. And I know, but when you really think about sports, do you really think that the coach of Duke football doesn't care about winning? Of course he wants to win. Like, of course he does.
But do the fans care?
But Like, I don't think one has to do with the other. I just think it's because they don't win. If Duke started winning a lot in football, they would care. Cincinnati, when they're not winning in football, college-wise, they're just another good, interesting little product in the area. They're doing what they're doing now, and now all of a sudden they're a hot ticket all around here. I think winning matters. You got to win. North Carolina. I've heard more North Carolina coverage over the last 2 years since Mac Brown got there. And why? Because you gave it attention. Mac Brown can win. He can recruit. So you could do things there, but you got to find the right people to do it. Ohio State basketball, in the 90s, obviously, some struggles there. Then you have the Sylvester and those guys. You have the shot and everything that happened there. I don't know. I just think, it matters. I think the reason that Thad Matta's Buckeye basketball team mattered more was because you did it with Ohio kids. Mm-hmm. Like, I know Greg Oda wasn't an Ohio kid, but I mean, you had your Dieblers, you had your Jamar Butler, Daquan Cook. I mean, our local kid. You had Ohio kids all over the place, and you tuned in to watch these kids. Your Aaron Crafts. I mean, those spread out over a few classes. Yeah. But you had, like I said, the Jamar Butler. I mean, hell, he played in the conference that our team did in high school. That was cool, seeing him go to Ohio State. But I think that mattered. Dallas Lauderdale, those guys, all Ohio guys. I think that matters. This run that right now Holtman's making, it's not with Ohio kids, but that's what made Mata's run so special, is because not only were they filled with Ohio kids, they were a top 10 team with Ohio kids. They were in the national championship game with Ohio kids. Solinger, all those guys, like multiple classes. That's what made that fun and relevant.
I mean, half the team was off all Ohio Red, the AAU team.
Keith Tarver says, Kevin is 100% right. You have Duke basketball. You have Duke basketball fans and OSU football fans. What?
Yeah, you're a Duke basketball fan.
Huh?
You're a Dookie.
I followed them more when Luke Kennard was there, but I just love college basketball. I follow all college basketball. Wright State's my team just because I went there, and I love that damn program. So I'm associated with them. So I follow that.
You're a Dookie.
Luke Kennard being there was damn cool, though. That was cool watching him. There's something cool about just watching these kids, especially that play here local, that from here and go to play. That's what was fun about Landers. That's what made Landers such a special player. Even Ryan Mikesell, who was just about a little over an hour, 20 minutes north of here. It's fun when you win with local kids. It just means more. So, and that was the big argument. Yeah. That was the big argument about, in football with Urban Meyer, the Ohio State, the Ohio pipeline, just totally going out. He got talent from, which I'm a big fan of, by the way. You go get the best players. I don't care what their addresses are. You go get the best players out there. I don't take a lesser talent because he plays at an Ohio school and pass up on the more talented kid just because you're worried about upsetting your fans. You're not recruiting Ohio. Give me a break. Be better. Get more talent. I'll be back in a moment.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
Hey, how'd you like to get paid to work out? Yes, I said get paid to work out. Now you can with the ISSA, the global leader in personal fitness certification. If you're interested in a money-making career in fitness as a personal trainer, now is your time because the ISSA is guaranteeing you will get a job. That's right. There's a huge demand for certified personal trainers right now. So once you get ISSA certified, they guarantee you'll get a job. Just text AMP to 323232 now to get started for free. You do everything at your own pace and 100% online. Live your life on your terms. Get certified and train like you want. Full-time at a gym at home or as a side hustle. Whatever works for you. Don't wait another day to start your career in fitness. Get certified and start making money fast. Guaranteed. Just text AMP to 323232 right now to get started with your ISSA certification for free. Text the word AMP to 323232.
Hi, Joey Beckett here at Buckeye Ford in Sydney, home of the Works package. We'll change the oil and filter, rotate the tires, check the brakes, test the battery, and check all the fluids and filters. Still starting at just $39.95. And ask us about our double take tire specials. Goodyear, Michelin, BF Goodrich, Kelly, and other quality tires. Buckeye Ford in Sydney, exit 92 off of I-75. We'll see you soon.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
Staples has everything you need to start the year right, like home office furniture, the latest tech and organizational supplies, and all at amazing prices. Get a fresh start this year with big savings from Staples.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kinner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. On Twitter, make sure to give us a follow. Search 1410 Kinner for Justin Kinner on Twitter. That's 1410 KINNER and ESPN Dayton for the station Twitter handle. WING 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio. It's the Justin Kinner Show, live here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM. Tweet the show at 1410 Kinner or give us a call at 457-9464. We now send you to the Wing Studios in Kettering. Here's your host, Justin Kinner.
We somehow got into college basketball talk a little bit ago. But speaking of college basketball, both local schools on ESPN2 tonight. The Wright State Raiders will tip things off at 7 o'clock on ESPN2 against Youngstown State. The Dayton Flyers will be in action at 9 o'clock on ESPN2. Immediately following the Raiders game, they will be at Davidson. The Wright State Raiders 11.5-point favorites over Youngstown State. And the last I checked, the Dayton Flyers were 7-point underdogs. And again, the Dayton Flyers again trying to kind of figure out some things here. You lose to LaSalle, you lose to Fordham. There's a lot of expectations, high expectations for this team coming in, not expectations in regards to them being the number 3 team in the country a year ago. You don't do that when you lose to Obi Toppin and Ryan Mikesell and Trey Landers. But you shouldn't be as bad as what they have looked over the last couple of weeks. They got to figure it out. They have a chance to do it on national TV tonight. You know, it wouldn't surprise me at all with as bad as they've looked the last 2 weeks to just come out and punch Davidson right in the mouth and get a huge win in a game that they're, again, not favored to win. I take Dayton +7 tonight.
I'll take that.
I'll take Dayton +7. Does Wright State cover?
Yes. Big time.
Yeah, they beat Oakland. They were up 40-9 over Oakland last Saturday,
and then turned around and
they beat Oakland by like 30 or 40 points, and then they lost by 10 the next night. Yeah. That's that weird scheduling of back-to-back. But either way,
I'm sure Coach had a nice little talking and nice couple of days of practice with the fellas to say, that's not happening.
I'm sure. By the way, Schrody says, Kinner, would you like to let everyone know how Mata got that Odin class? Hey, I'm not going there, but I do know that I got
rumors. Vicious rumors.
By the way, you see Georgia, Dan Patrick on the Dan Patrick show today announced, that according to his sources, that Georgia, Tennessee is about to get big time busted right now for a bunch of recruiting violations, and that Georgia apparently has gotten sloppy. And what that says to me with the wording of that is when Georgia gets sloppy with recruiting, what that says to me is it gets sloppy with covering their tracks. Yeah. That's what that means. I hate to break it to you, but every team out there does some fishy things out on the recruiting trail. And basically the schools that recruit the best are the ones that do a better job of, cleaning up their mess. You don't leave evidence behind it. And I'm curious to see what's going to come out of that. We talked about the recruiting stuff a little bit ago with Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson. It surprised me. I couldn't believe with as much as we talk recruiting and talk about how Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, it's those three and everyone else. Clemson's not they're rarely in the top. They're not a top recruiting school. They don't kick ass out of the recruiting trail. That's what fascinated me. The fact that
how did they do this past season?
Their numbers actually have improved. Hold on, I got to find it right here on this sheet when I wrote it down. But 8 times in the last 10 years,
because I know
they were 10 or lower.
The class with Wilkinson, the big time defensive tackle that they had a couple years ago, he's like a 3-star dude. Like,
so the best recruiting classes they've had are the last 2. So 2020, the 3rd ranked recruiting class, and they're number 4, and for the 2021.
So all these guys that they're eating off of now, these are products of the Deshaun Watson-led championship team. Because you got to think about that. That's like 4 or 5 years ago.
But some of those guys just coming.
Yeah.
Reaping the rewards of that.
So like the guys that you're getting now are that, and Trevor Lawrence, they're going to keep reaping the benefits as long as they keep winning. So.
Yeah, and that's what's that's why we talked about earlier. You look at Alabama, the fact that they have 5, or Ohio State has 5 top 3 recruiting classes in the last decade. Alabama has 9 number 1 rated recruiting classes in the last decade. And then you look at Clemson, who, as I said, I know everyone hates Clemson. I hate Clemson. Dabo drives me nuts, but the fact that they have won multiple national championships this past decade, while again having, I think, what did I count? I went back 8 recruiting classes that have been 10 or lower. Like, that's insane to me. He's not recruiting at the same level as Ohio State and Alabama, but yet there he is with multiple national championships, multiple high-caliber quarterbacks in Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. It's interesting, but hey, Ohio State knocked him out, and that's all that matters. Ohio State looking to cap off what I believe will be the toughest national championship run in program history, to have to battle your own conference to even play this year, to nearly not playing enough games to even play in your title game, the conference again having to kind of reshuffle the deck a little bit to allow that to happen. You win the Big Ten championship game with 22 players missing due to COVID protocols. You beat the number 2 team in the country in Clemson, and now you have the number 1 team in Alabama coming up with COVID again impacting Ohio State. It's good. This would be, if when Ohio State caps this off on Monday night, it will be the toughest national championship run in program history. And I tell you, it's been a lot of ups and downs, but it's all going to be worth it come Monday night. I cannot wait.
Can't wait. We're winning this thing.
All right, 457-9464. We got Tennessee Jeff waiting on hold. Tennessee Jeff, welcome in, sir. How are you?
Man, first of all, Kevin and Justin, are you ready?
Been ready.
Are you ready? I heard you're not even. I heard you're not even a fan of them. I'm just joking. That's a huge joke.
Hey, I'm going to tell you real quick. You guys go head to head with the best show on 97.1 The Fan out of Columbus. You guys are freaking badasses. So kudos to you guys. You are legit, really, really good. On to the next thing. I'm laying in bed. What time is it? 9? 5? I don't know what time it is. But
you went to life, by the way. It's 5 o'clock. You're still laying in bed. Good for you, man.
No. I'm in bed for the night, bro. Like, I got to get up at 2, drive to Cincinnati, fly to LaGuardia, sit there for 2 hours, and then go to Miami. So tomorrow at this time, I'll be eating. Hey, I haven't been to Miami since 85. 1985, I've been there. So I've been on a Clemson hangover, honestly, till last night. I'd like, man, get your mind right. Clemson's done. It doesn't mean squat if we go out and get smoked Monday night. Let me say one more thing.
Yep, you're good.
2014, I'm at the Marriott downtown New Orleans where the team stayed, and I'm down there talking to, who's the Titans head
Vrabel.
Yeah, so I'm talking to Vrabel. There's 2 guys at the bar, and I kept looking around like, where the heck's all the Miami fans? I'm sorry, where's all the Alabama fans? Like, where's it? Because it was a majority, because they travel well like we do, And in Tuscaloosa is a lot closer than Columbus. So what happened was they had took it for granted that I went to Ohio State, we'll just, we'll crush them, and then we'll get our tickets to play Oregon and the Natty in Dallas.
Yep.
So 2 guys at the bar, 2 know-it-all guys, kind of like me, start talking. They're like, listen, I'm joking. Yeah, exactly, right? I'm a legend of my own mind.
Yeah, you're good.
They start saying, listen, they say Alabama will dominate Ohio State on the line of scrimmage. It won't even be close. It'll be over by halftime. So if you guys remember, 4 minutes, 36 seconds ago, we're down 20-6. And then here we go. And then we did that trick play with I don't remember, but I was right there. And then they kept having to punt the ball. I'm like, we're going to win this. They couldn't stop Zeke. Here's the thing. We got, from what I've been told, from reliable sources out of Columbus, we got 2 starters, possibly 3 that are out on the defensive front. 2 guys, he's out for anyhow, it doesn't matter. So
it kind of does. There's a rumored position group out. What are you hearing on that? What are your sources tell you?
The position group is not out. Absolutely not.
That's all. That's being over dramatized.
Yeah. We're good. Here's, as long as we can get them a few stops, man, because they cannot stop. I don't know where Sherman came from. I talked to Tony. I'm like, dude, where'd he come from? He's on it right now. He got the hot hand. As long as we got number one and number 8 in the backfield, and we got other weapons, their defense is suspect, just like ours is, except for the Clemson game. We can score on these guys. We maybe want to punt once or twice. We need about one. This will either be one or two ways. And I'll hang up and listen to you guys. You guys are phenomenal. We're either getting our asses handed to us or we're going to beat them by 2 points. We're not kicking their butt because they're really, really strong. So I think we can do it. Hey, we're going to do it. We're going to win this game. I'm going to call you Monday from Miami Beach drinking an apple tea on South Beach at 3 o'clock Monday before the game. Go Bucks, guys.
Wait. I got a question.
What?
Yeah, back to the defensive line. That's pretty serious information that you got. So you said one more time about COVID issues on the D line?
Here's what I've been told. They will not. When I say that's not important, what I meant by that is I need to shut my mouth because they do not release names. Right. Not release names. I've been told by people that know what to talk about. It is unless Ohio State's pulling faster. Listen, let me say this. You guys might find this interesting. And to answer your question, Kevin, I've heard 2 main guys are out on our D-line. That's a big deal. I said it's not a big deal because I don't want to give any names because I'm a fan like you guys, but I do have a couple of friends.
Yeah, but not a lot of fans. Not a lot of fans talk to coaches like you do.
Starter or non-starter?
Yeah, starter.
2 starters.
Oh, okay.
And the Big Ten did approach Alabama or the SEC. I'm not sure which one. Maybe both. Listen, man, let's push this back to the 18th. Alabama, just like we would say, kick rocks, bro. Get down here and play Alabama. No, I ain't trying to hear that. It is like you said, man, Justin. This will be the hardest, most difficult path to the national championship ever in Columbus in Ohio State history. If we pull this off, dude, if we beat a team and if Waddle comes back, who are you going to put on Waddle? You're going to put Wade, which I'm not even sold on Wade. Wade is not a top 10 pick. You're going to put Wade on Smith, and who's going to take Waddle?
You know, that was like I got ripped for that yesterday. And to be fair to Sean Wade, he was asked a question. You have to answer it. It's not like he was talking smack, but it was reshaped as they put the quote from Sean Wade that says everyone knows who I want, and of course we know what receiver he's talking about with Alabama, and he should a super competitor like that. But all I could think of was like, really, I don't want that matchup. But again, who else Ohio State going to put on him at this point? Like Sean Wade I was shocked at how many awards he came away with. I ain't trying to bash him too much. So the rep.
No, Justin, I'm trying to bash him. Dude's a second-round pick best, period. Our secondary stepped it up. But watch, last thing I promise on here, watch our secondary next year, dude, as far as how much strong. Sevyn Banks will be twice the player Sean Wade. I'm telling you, man. Sean Wade is average, dude. I'm not trying to bang on him, but I don't know where people think this guy's the top. There's no way, man. He gets roasted. Watch this guy play one-on-one. Bottom line, he's inconsistent. He is good, but when he is bad, dude, he gets smoked and he's bad. Doesn't matter. I think we're scoring. As long as we got 8-1 in the backfield, we're scoring more points. We're going to win this game Monday night. You guys have a good weekend, huh? Hey, you know what? I haven't flown since the Rose Bowl in 2018. And before that, I haven't flown since 1987. I don't like to fly. I'm scared to fly. I'm a nervous wreck. But I'm sure the heck not driving back to. I just drove from New Orleans to here. You think I'm going to drive to Miami? No way.
I made that drive to Miami one day in college. 19-hour drive from Wright State to Miami Beach.
Really? It's 19 hours?
19 hours in the car.
Give me a score. Who's winning and what's the score, fellas?
Kenner?
I'm going to say Ohio State's winning. Ohio State, you've come too far. You've dealt with too much. Your toughest opponent all year has been your own conference. If you can overcome Kevin Warren and the Big Ten, if you can overcome that, you could beat them. You could beat anybody. And if they play the way they did against Clemson, look, I don't care how many good defensive players Ohio State has. You're not stopping Alabama, and I don't care how many good to average defensive players Alabama has. They're not stopping Ohio State. This is going to come down to managing your offensive time of possession because both teams could score at will. It's going to be about managing your time of possession. Both teams have good run games. I would normally give the advantage to Alabama in that, but with the way this Trey Sermon kid's been playing the last couple of games, this is pretty even on paper offensively right now with the way teams are playing at the moment. 45-38 Ohio State.
Wow. Kevin?
42-38 Buckeyes.
$45-42. OH. Call you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Here we go, baby.
Back then, safe travels, man. He's a unique cat. He's a unique cat.
But he's plugged in.
Yeah. Like I remember, he is. At first, when he first started calling it, I'm like, who is this guy? He used to call him the Bobby Carpenter Show. Him and Bobby Carpenter butted heads and had a little falling out. I think they're good now. In fact, at Urban Meyer's Pint House, they made up recently, I believe. But it was funny. I talked to Bobby about it. He used to call into Bobby's show. He had a whole segment on Bobby's show, calling in to get. He gave like a pep games pregame speech, a little pep games. I like Tennessee Jeff. For as big a Buckeye fan as he is, I'm surprised he puts Tennessee in his name. We should just call him Buckeye Jeff. I have no, but hey, ain't gonna mess with his brand. He has a good thing going. All right, but yeah, he got the one thing he just did that I'm a little mad at him for. He got us to give our score predictions on a Friday for a game on Monday. Come on, man. You know me. I flip flop all over the place. I can change my mind by Monday. It's gonna be.
We are allowed to change our mind when new information comes out.
Look, bottom line, that's why I don't like talking about the defensive flaws for either team. It doesn't matter. Even if both defenses are good, you're not stopping them. Nick Saban said it himself. You're not stopping teams. You can't stop teams right now. I mean, look, I know people think that Ohio State stopped Trevor Lawrence this past Friday. They did not. They did not. He threw for 400 yards. Trevor Lawrence threw. When we sit there, I see a lot of people on social media. We shut down Trevor Lawrence. We'll shut down Mac Jones. You didn't shut down Trevor Lawrence. He threw for 400 yards. That last I checked, that's not shutting somebody down. You may be able to slow down the offensive attack as a whole, but you're not stopping the quarterback. Mac Jones is going to throw all over the place just like Trevor Lawrence did, but it's going to be about situational stops, and it's going to be about offensively. You want to score at will, yes, but you gotta balance it out. You gotta balance the run. You really do gotta eat time. It cannot be a shootout because it's going to be a high scoring affair. I'm pumped. This is gonna be cool, man. I'm super excited about Monday. We get to watch the Browns beat your Steelers and the Buckeyes win the national championship. Man, 2021 off to a good sports start.
I'm glad you clarified that.
All right, we'll be back in a moment. Oh, real quick, Keith Tolliver on Twitter, on Facebook says the hardest, I would say, probably the easiest. And if the Buckeyes win this national championship, Keith, explain. I'm curious your thoughts. Why do you think it's the easiest? I've explained in the past why I think it's the hardest. The fact that, they had to battle their own conference just to even play this season. You get an 8-game schedule and you have 8 weeks to get it in, knowing that you're going to have a lot of bumps along the way with, positive COVID tests, whether they're your own or your opponents, and everything that could go wrong for Ohio State in the Big Ten from a scheduling standpoint and a COVID standpoint happened. They only got 5 games in. They got 6 total with the Big Ten championship. They make the playoff. Well, everyone is pissed that they made the playoff because, they only played 6 games. Everyone else is playing 9, 10, and 11. And although we hate the teams that were complaining about it, it's not like they were far off on their criticism. I mean, we would be criticizing if the roles were reversed. And then you have to play Clemson and Trevor Lawrence and Dabo Swinney, who's won how many straight college football playoffs, has 2 national championships, and then you get through them just so you get to Bama. If they beat Alabama on Monday, it would be the toughest road to a championship, and it'd be the most impressive if you ask me. We'll be back in a moment. 457-9464. More of the Justin Kinner Show with Kevin Nash next.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy, a high near 35. Tonight's also going to be mostly cloudy, a low around 25. And tomorrow will be partly cloudy, a high near 38. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather is brought to you by Cullet Propane. 98% of their customers recommend Cullet. If you wouldn't recommend your current supplier, check them out at culletpropane.com.
Does learning a language feel like this?
No habla español? Hablo. It's hablo? Yes. It's hablo.
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
Since my husband is from Guatemala, I'll apply what I've learned in Babbel to our real life situations.
The app is so easy to use and it's so practical. It helps you learn things that you will actually need.
Babbel, language for life, celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com, Babbel.com.
Carmen's startup found an angel investor, but now they're asking for a miracle from her development team.
Hello, this is Carmen. That's exciting news. I guess we could launch early.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
OHMB 803-342, NMLS 304138. Do you need help with a loan to purchase or refinance your home? Have you applied for a home loan and been told you do not qualify for a loan? Are you a first-time buyer and have questions regarding the home buying process? Are you considering refinancing your existing home? Do you live in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Florida, or South Carolina? If you answered yes to any of the above questions, you need to call Forrest Ferris at 3rd Street Financial Home Loans at 513-320-5911, who is available 7 days a week to help you. We're 3rd Street Financial Home Loans, and Forrest Ferris specializes in approving home loans banks and other lenders cannot or will not approve. Some of our clients might have low credit scores, been through a divorce, want to buy a home for sale by owner, are in a land contract, or dealing with probate or estate homes. Call Forrest now for a free estimate, 513-320-5911. That's 513-320-5911. Offer valid for purchase or refinancing of homes located in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Florida, and South Carolina only. Minimum loan amount $60,000. Limitations and restrictions apply.
Menards has the best and brightest ideas for lighting your home. We have thousands of lights to choose from, so you can find the perfect light for your home or office space. Brighten your home with Lithonia lighting. The 4,000 lumen LED wrap light is perfect for closets, storage rooms, and offices. Right now, it's only $69.99. Save big money now during Menards Project Day sale. Prices are good until January 16th.
Save big money at Menards.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
The Meyer Distribution Center in Tip City, Ohio is hiring for warehouse positions in all units, which include flexible schedules, career growth opportunities, best-in-class benefits, and competitive starting wages. Interested candidates should call 937-669-9109 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., Monday through Friday. Apply online at jobs.meyer.com. Search distribution and enter Tip City. Once again, call 937-669-9109 for an interview. We look forward to you joining the team at Meyer. Meyer is an equal opportunity employer.
What's in store this week at Staples?
A great start to the new year.
Give your business a head start on the year with everything you need to be organized and productive.
Like storage solutions, the latest tech, and office essentials like paper and ink, all at amazing prices.
And now at Staples, earn 40% back in rewards when you buy any 2 ink or toner cartridges. Shop in store or pick up curbside.
Start the year right and save at Staples. Ends 1/9/21. Limit 4. Curbside available in most stores. Visit staples.com/40 in rewards for details.
Allstate now has deeper savings, and deeper savings require deep thoughts and a deep voice, like mine. Save for being a new customer. Save more for adding DriveWise, and save even more for driving safely. Visit allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. As someone once said, saving today is money tomorrow. That's deep.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. DriveWise is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Winthrop, Illinois.
Staples has everything you need to start the year right, like home office furniture, the latest tech, and organizational supplies, and all at amazing prices. Get a fresh start this year with big savings from Staples.
Don't miss the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays at 3 p.m. on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
So you want to talk about outliers? Those guys are outliers. You're lucky that this thing's separating us. That's all I got to say. For facts, though. I got your facts right here.
Listen, stream, and now watch. Search the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook to follow along. Whether you're at home, at work, or in your car, tune in to ESPN 1410 Wing AM or stream us live at wingam.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here. Here in just a moment, we are going to rank all 12 quarterbacks playing in the NFL wildcard round this weekend. We're going to rank them all from quarterbacks facing the most pressure to the quarterback facing the least pressure. We'll get to that in a moment. But 457-9464, we'll go back to the phones. We got Darren on hold. No, we do not. Darren, if you call back, we'll get you on and get you set up. Maybe. There you go. There we go. We got it situated, right?
Yeah, we're good. Call back, Darren.
Yeah, Darren, we'll get you back up. All right, 457-9464, that's the number. But all right, a big weekend in the NFL again. We're going to, Monday's going to be exciting, but it's like, this is a big week. I'm jacked. Steelers, Browns, Buckeyes, Bama. This is, I'm in heaven right now in the build-up to these matchups coming up. So, let's do this. We're going to, again, I need you to hit that NFL music. We're going to start our rankings for our quarterbacks. And you ranked them, right? From the quarterback facing the most pressure to the quarterback facing the least pressure. For one right now, I'm going to start with the least pressure quarterback or the most pressure. Want to start from 12 to 1 or from 1 to 12? Facing the most pressure. The quarterback to me facing the most pressure this weekend is Tom Brady. Tom Brady, again, and he has accomplished everything. You would think that the guy that's accomplished everything, it's like, you know what? Anything he does from here on out is just a cherry on top of one of the best careers of all time, if not the best quarterback career of all time. But there is still the narrative out there about who won the divorce. And I don't really care who wins the divorce between him and Bill Belichick, but it is an ongoing narrative of, and it's not even a fair one. Tom Brady won it. Look, he continues to win without Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick can't win without Brady. As if the rosters are the same, as if the rosters have equal talent. That's the dumb. I hate when people have that argument. It literally makes zero sense to me. Tom Brady is winning because he should be winning because he has talent around him. The bottom line is Tom Brady is facing a ton of pressure, and I would be saying that about any quarterback of the Buccaneers, Kev, because of every weapon that they put around him. They went out and got Leonard Fournette. They went out and got every piece that they possibly. Antonio Brown. On top, this was an offense that was one of the top offenses in the league last year, and they still added more depth to it. On paper, this team looks sexier than the Kansas City Chiefs, like from an offensive standpoint. So they're going up against the number 2 defense in the NFL. That's how I view it. But at the end of the day, it is a team of below 500 who won an embarrassingly bad division in the NFC least. Tampa, they were the talk of the NFL in the offseason acquiring Tom Brady. It would be a failure of a season if he goes and loses in this wild card round to Washington. And that's my upset of the first round, by the way. It's Washington over Tampa. I say that Tom Brady is facing the most pressure of any quarterback in the playoffs this weekend.
Number 1 for me is Drew Brees. Drew Brees is under the most pressure because the clock is not only ticking, it's stomping. There's so many rumors about him retiring this upcoming season. Matter of fact, there was rumors about him retiring after last season. Currently, Drew Brees is 8-8 in the playoffs and everything like that. Obviously, he has a Super Bowl under his belt. But, perfect way to go out is to get one more. One more Super Bowl, that would be great. But he's under so much pressure this season because of the way the other seasons have ended. I know there's some calls that didn't go their way, but people always overlook the fact that they got the ball back in those games and he threw interceptions in those games. So I think Drew Brees is under the most pressure out of all 12 quarterbacks playing this weekend.
See, I have Drew Brees towards the back end of my pressure thing because I base my rankings off of legacy pressure. What are we going to, Tom Brady's legacy is set per se, but at the same time, we still talk a lot about Tom Brady or Bill Belichick, who is the guy, who is more responsible for the success. Well, Brady, the big narrative about Tom Brady, Kev, was that, he won all of those games in New England with less talent than every other Super Bowl team out there, right? Like he did more with less. Remember, we talked about it, he did more with less. And now it's like, okay, did Tom Brady do more with less or did Bill Belichick do more with less? Because if Tom Brady leaves from a team that the narrative was he did more with less, going to a team that has more than the average team of the NFL, it's well above the average team. He has every weapon you can imagine. There's not one weakness in that offense from a effort and talent standpoint. It's just an execution standpoint at that point. That's why I feel like he has the most pressure. Drew Brees, if he wins on Sunday or tomorrow, whenever the hell they play, I don't know what it does for his legacy. If he loses this weekend, I don't know what it does for his legacy other than it might be his final game in the National Football League. So there is that aspect of it. So I get that. But for me, on how I did it, it was legacy based. Of how will these wins or losses impact these quarterbacks' legacies? That's why I have Tom Brady there at the top.
Fair enough. Number 2 for me, your buddy, Lamar Jackson.
Yep, the same thing for me.
Lamar Jackson is under enormous pressure, currently 0-2 in his playoff career, going up against the Titans, the team that knocked him out last year. So Lamar's under pressure to win, and not only to win, but to be impressive, be the reason why they win. And let's be clear, if they do win, he is going to be the reason. He's always the reason. Like, they were headed towards new coaches, headed towards train wreck before they put him in as a rookie. So he was the reason Ravens won before. He's going to be the reason they win if they win this weekend. So I got Lamar too.
I think he'll be a reason as to why they win, but I don't think he's going to be why. I mean, look, that defense. Lamar can be as exciting in front all he wants, but I mean, if they don't have that defense is going to be why they make any noise in the playoffs. I mean, when you're a star like Lamar and an MVP, we shouldn't be questioning whether you're going to step up and have a good game or not. Like, that should just be a given. Like, we're not man, I wonder if Tom Brady's going to play good. We're expecting Tom Brady to play good, right? Like that we just expected. So with Lamar, we need to get past that. Oh man, is he going to step up and play good this weekend? That's what he has going against him. Now, he had a great playoff game last year. Just, they fell short. The team fell short, right? So whether it's right or wrong, that's the thing. Everyone has a different opinion about the legacies of these quarterbacks, but whether it's right or wrong, media dictates it. And even if he plays well and they lose, there's so much pressure on Lamar. Lamar cannot be 0-3 in the playoffs. He just can't. Doesn't mean he's going to be cut. Doesn't mean that the Ravens will move on from him. It doesn't mean any of that. But sometimes when those narratives start to develop, I think they take on a weight of their own, and it does become a mental distraction for quarterbacks and players and coaches moving forward. And that's going to be the one thing that he's going to have to fight through. He's good enough to win. The Ravens are good enough to win. This isn't a matter of the Ravens upsetting the Titans. The Ravens should win. There's no reason why they shouldn't win. Lamar's going to have to step up, though, because if he has a bad game and goes out in the first round for 3 straight years, it just right or wrong, It can't happen. That is for sure. Number 3 for me, Mitch Trubisky, because he's playing for his career. If this could be his last game as a starter, unless he, becomes a starter in future seasons as filling in for the starter, because I think he right now, if he goes and has a big game this weekend and is a part of the reason they upset the Saints and he has a breakout offseason, might give the Bears a little hope moving forward. But right now, Trubisky, this is it. Like, this is your last game as the starter of the Chicago Bears, because there's way too many options out there for the Bears at quarterback, whether they do go after a Deshaun Watson, whether they do try to move up in the draft, whether you go out and get a Garoppolo if San Francisco finds a quarterback elsewhere. There are so many options out there, and Trubisky is at the bottom of those options. He has to go out there and perform. He's performing for his career. I have him at number 3.
Number 3 for me, Big Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben, just like Drew Brees, your career is coming to an end. You got 2 Super Bowls. One of the Super Bowls, the defense won it for you. The second Super Bowl, you were outstanding in it. But guess what? You haven't been to the Super Bowl since 2009. Big Ben, you're 38 years old. You got a home game. It's time to advance in the playoffs again and make another run for the Super Bowl. Big Ben is under some big time pressure in my book.
I have Josh Allen coming in at number 4. Josh Allen, and I heard a show earlier today. How can we put pressure on Lamar Jackson and not Josh Allen? To be fair, Josh Allen just became a star this year. Josh Allen was a good quarterback last year. He wasn't a star. Josh Allen has become a star this year. And when you become a star, the expectations change. We look, even though I have Mitch Trubisky ahead of Josh Allen on this pressure list, we look at Mitch Trubisky differently than we do at Josh Allen. Now Josh Allen is expected to win playoff games. Josh Allen was viewed as a game manager a year ago, 2 years ago. He's been a game managing viewed quarterback of, hey, he's not going to be why you win games. You just got to make sure he's not the reason you lose games. And I think that's the pressure that he was facing. But now that you are the guy, you can't lose this playoff game. Like, you have to win. If Josh Allen wants to prove that he is the guy, he has to win this game coming up this weekend. I have him at number 4 on my list.
I can feel that. I got Ryan Tannehill at number 4 for me. This is going to be a big-time matchup between the Titans and the Ravens. The days of him playing in Miami and not having weapons, those are far gone. You got a 2,000-yard rusher on your team. You got a great offensive line. You got A.J. Brown. You got Corey Davis. You got lots of weapons. They're a pretty high-scoring team, and they're going to need to score those points because their defense is absolutely garbage. So Tannehill's under enormous pressure. Like, that's why I'm looking forward to the Ravens and Tennessee game, because outside of the Steelers-Browns game, that's the one I want to see the most because it's so much on the line for both quarterbacks. He just got paid big time in the offseason, so they're expecting results. So he's up there high for me.
Yeah, I have Ryan Tannehill at that same. Oh no, I'm sorry. I have Big Ben. I have Ryan Tannehill at number 6. I have Big Ben at number 5, mainly because Big Ben's not like all the pressure is on him to begin with. They have no run game. They have literally no run game. If like we talk so much about like I feel like the perception is that it's David versus Goliath this weekend, like the Browns versus the Steelers. I have no clue why. Because we literally, like, the Steelers are not that much better than the Browns. I'm not even convinced that they are better than the Browns. I'm not saying they're worse. I think this is a very even matchup just because of the struggles that the Steelers have had offensively. We know what Big Ben's capable of, but we also know that he's capable of not being a factor either. So I think that because it's the playoffs, because it's this time of year, defense usually steps up and wins games. Is this defense good enough to do that? There's pressure on Big Ben to lead this team to a win because you have no run game. Run game and defense is what wins in the playoffs. You have no run game. The defense has been suspect at times. There's a lot of pressure on Big Ben. There's a reason he's thrown the ball 600 times. He has thrown the ball more this year than he has in some of his highest thrown seasons. So I think that's a problem. I have him facing that most pressure there. I have Ryan Tannehill coming in at number 6, mainly because, hey, they paid him. Many people believe that they shouldn't have paid him. They shouldn't have extended him by that much money. But there's some pressure there. You have Derrick Henry. You have some good wide receivers. You have a good offense. You have a good coach. They took a step back defensively, but Ryan Tannehill has to prove that, hey, you had a pretty good season, numbers-wise. You need to make sure that you continue to prove that you're getting better each year. It's up to Ryan Tannehill to go out and get that win this week because you know what you get from Derrick Henry. You know what you're capable of with the receivers in that offensive line. Tannehill has to be the guy that steps up and leads them to a win this weekend. Tannehill versus Lamar is a very interesting quarterback matchup this week.
Big time. Number 5 for me is Josh Allen for all the same reasons you said. Before, he was just looked at as the guy, like, let's see if he can do it. And this year, not only did he step up, but they stepped up front office-wise by getting Stephon Diggs in that trade, making a play for the rookie receiver, trading up to get the rookie receiver, Gabriel, from UCF. So he's got weapons now, not just like slot receivers like Beasley, and he's got big receiver and Gabriel. He's got a downfield threat in Diggs. So he has a ton of weapons and he's been balling out. But now, just like Lamar had to do, like, oh man, you're getting all these accolades. Now you have to step up when it truly counts in the playoffs. So he's got number 5 spot for me.
Yeah, and moving on now, I have Russell Wilson next on my list. Russell Wilson, you get beat in the first round of the playoffs. I'm putting you officially on my most overrated quarterback in the NFL list. I'm telling you, it drives me nuts. I think he is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL. Has a lot of skill, but when we judge every other quarterback based on how they win games and win big games and go on playoff runs, he doesn't do that. He just doesn't do that. We put him, I hear everyone talking about, he's one of the best of all time. He's very, very good. But the best of all time should be guys that go on deep playoff runs consistently and are constantly. His teams just aren't good. They're not good enough, and he's not good enough. He doesn't make his team better. He has led some bad teams to the playoffs before, but it's all about what you do in the playoffs. He has to win this weekend. I know the Justin Kinner overrated list. No one wants to be on that. People lose sleep at night because they don't want to be on Justin Kinner's overrated list, but he will be at the top of my overrated list with as much hype and talk as he gets. Every year he's an MVP. Every year he's a sleeper MVP pick, and every year he's sleeping early in the playoffs. And I think there's a lot of pressure on him. He can't continue to be hyped up every single year and then continue to be flat come playoff time. It gets old for me. Well, I think there's pressure on him. He's going to be at the top of my overrated list if he don't win this weekend.
I got him at number 6 as well. He's got a ton of weapons. He's got Tyler Lockett, big-time receivers. Obviously, DK Metcalf's a big-time receiver. The defense looks like it's coming around. Also, you're playing the Rams, and you're playing possibly a backup quarterback with the Rams or a quarterback with a jacked-up thumb. So you should win. And if you don't win, there's a big problem there. So Russell Wilson, I love you. You're my dude. I rock with you big time, but you are number 6 on my list.
All right. And then, after this, I have Drew Brees there. Again, I don't think there's a lot. Me and you differ on that. I don't think there's a lot of pressure. You have expectations. You're Drew Brees. I don't think his legacy is going to be impacted one way or another, even with the win or with the loss, as far as that goes. Phillip Rivers, again, another guy. No, I don't think there's nothing legacy-wise for him that's winning one way or another. If all of a sudden the Colts make this miracle Super Bowl run, right? Then that's might alter how you look at Phillip Rivers. But he's a run-a quarterback. We all know that the Colts went all out to get him for that very reason, and he's led them to the playoffs. He did exactly what you wanted him to do, and that's what they couldn't get done a year ago. I have Alex Smith at number 10. Alex Smith, again, he's a great story, great comeback story, but he's also one of the there's no legacy involvement here. He has a chance to get a huge upset win. He is his team's my upset pick of the weekend. But Alex Smith, I just don't think that there's any pressure on him this weekend. If he wins, great. If he loses, he's supposed to lose. I just don't think there's a lot of pressure on him right there. So Phillip Rivers, Alex Smith, Jared Goff, I all have there towards the back is just guys that I don't look at as having a lot of pressure this weekend.
Number 7 for me, Phillip Rivers, for the same thing. Like, he's not a guy that we're talking about in the GOAT conversation. He's not a guy that we're going to have to be talking about like, oh, man, if he doesn't get a ring, his career isn't going to be complete. He's done a ton of yards. He's won a lot of games. But like you said, if they go on a run and win a Super Bowl, then we're talking. But right now, I put him very middle of the pack. Also got Jared Goff coming in at number 8. He's banged up. Basically, I got the Rams starting quarterback in that spot. We don't know if Jared Goff's going to play. So whomever, is it him? Is it the backup? You at number 8. At number 9 for me is Mitchell Trubisky. I think that he's been playing good football early in the season just because he wasn't executing the game plan the coaches wanted. Instead of tailoring the offense around what Mitch Trubisky did well, they did that towards the back end of the season, implementing zone reads and using his legs and everything like that. And he started playing better football. I think he's safe with the Chicago Bears. I think the coach is out of there, and they're going to find somebody else to come in there that feels like they can coach up Mitchell Trubisky. So I got Mitch coming in there at 9.
Get Bieniemy. If you're the Bears, go get Bieniemy. Do everything you can to get Bieniemy, and then you go trade for Deshaun Watson. We said Bieniemy, Deshaun Watson. That was going to be the pairing. It might be the pairing. It just might be with a different team. Let's do it, Chicago. Do it.
Who you got at 10?
Number 10, that was I gave you my last.
Okay.
Alex Smith and Jared Goff for my 10 and 11. And I can't believe me and you have a certain individual that we're agreeing on some.
So at number 10 for me is Alex Smith. I mean, look, dude. You're out there with one leg. Like, let's be for real here. Like, you won the NFC lease. You backdoored in, which is cool. The defense is great. The defensive line is great. You got a great receiver in Terry McLaurin. You got Gibson, good running back that came out of Memphis and everything like that. You weren't supposed to be playing. You almost died. This is a win-win. Like, you're winning, bro. I feel nothing. He's won already.
Yeah, you lose. You're supposed to lose. You win. It's a hell of a story, but I don't think that there's any pressure on him. It's like, they're relying on it. Relying on someone and pressure don't always go hand in hand. I don't think there's pressure on him this weekend. I just think it's he knows he's going to be relied on to be that veteran presence. I still think he's going to be one of the reasons they win, though. I think that veteran presence means something in the playoffs, by the way. I really do. And I think that, but it'll be, I'm looking forward to that game early on.
Yeah, that's a big time game. And number 11 for me, Baker Mayfield. COVID, no coach. COVID, no coach. COVID, no coach.
And don't forget, no head coach.
COVID.
Who's your 12?
Tom Brady.
Oh, wow. So we are way out. So that one we're opposite. I have Tom Brady as, you know what? Now that the more I think about it, though, Tom Brady, it's about legacy. Nothing's changing.
He's the GOAT, man.
He's the GOAT. You're right. I mean, like, Michael Jordan's Wizard run, as embarrassing as it was, it didn't alter the perception of Michael Jordan. He's still the second best player of all time. I'm just saying.
For me, like, this whole Tom Brady experiment down there in Tampa is all cherry on top, man. He's the GOAT, man. And, like, there wasn't anything he was going to do to make him not the GOAT. Like, look, man, if he gets another one, what does that mean? I don't know what it means. Like, I mean, he's under zero pressure at all. This is all gravy for him.
I'm going to change mine. I think that, honest to God, the only quarterback that is facing any kind of backlash after this weekend is only one. It's Lamar. He's the only quarter. I think Josh Allen is going to be, if he doesn't perform well, I think we'll be questioning him moving forward.
Well, he's the only one on the list. Oh, nope. Drew Brees has an MVP. Tom Brady has an MVP. So he's the only one other quarterback on this list that has an MVP trophy. Yeah.
Ron, your guy's losing this weekend. We just said he's the best, but your guy's losing this weekend. Chime in. He got them the best record in years. I mean, who cares? I mean, they're still losing. You got the best record in years. Just
he's arguing because he's under no pressure. He wasn't to be under pressure.
Hey, Ron knows.
Might be under pressure from Chase Young.
Ron knows that the Bucs they're going to be bucked out. All right, I'm just saying. I have to. I changed my Tom Brady. You convinced me. Nothing's changing. Win or lose, no one's going to think any less of Tom Brady. But I still think that narrative of, he won all these Super Bowls with less in New England, going to to Tampa, and he's still playing at a high level, by the way. His numbers are through the roof. It's not like Tom Brady is like playing old man quarterback.
Ridiculous.
So I think he'll get criticized, but I don't think it's going to alter his legacy. But he needs to win, but I don't think he's winning. He's not winning this weekend. I have Lamar Jackson has to be number one. He's the only quarterback of all of these guys that if he loses, he will be viewed differently next season. And it's not right. I'm not saying it's right, but it is true. He will, because he's a victim of his own success because he was so damn good his rookie year. He wins MVP in year 2. Like, keep in mind that Patrick Mahomes, who won MVP in his very first year as a starter, doesn't make playoff runs and doesn't get. We're having the same conversations about him. The difference is he wins that MVP. He goes to the playoffs. He wins the Super Bowl, wins Super Bowl MVP. Patrick Mahomes keeps delivering. Lamar needs to start delivering, and it doesn't matter if he has good stats and loses. It's all about winning and losing. So I have to put Lamar number one. And I have Baker last on my list. I don't think there's any pressure on him. I mean, there's pressure on Baker, but I don't think that he's facing a ton of legacy-altering pressure heading into this Sunday.
That's why I can't put Lamar at 1, because Lamar is even younger than him. Like, he's got so much time to do this. Like,
but is Lamar right or not? Because he doesn't get the Baker benefit of the doubt and all that, and then you still get to be labeled great. If you're great, you win in the playoffs.
Peyton Manning was 0-3,
and he got criticized.
Yeah, I mean that's the sport. That's the sport. I'm here for the criticism, but I just can't put one. I have to put somebody at 1 who we deem as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, who has a 500 record in the playoffs. In the last 2 playoff losses, he threw the interception to ice the game.
Who?
Drew Brees.
Oh, you hate Drew Brees.
No, I do not.
Drew Brees is he's not. No one's gonna look at him different, win or lose. He's not. So if he's not gonna beat out Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady for the GOAT. He's a very, very good quarterback.
So if he loses, he goes to 8-9. And you talk about Russell Wilson, who has a 9-6 record in the playoffs, and he's terrible?
Because if he's as good as he says, get your team to a damn Super Bowl that's not in your rookie contract when you weren't even the reason you got to the damn Super Bowl. It's true.
So what is a deep playoff run?
Title game, NFC title game. He needs to get them to the title game. Title game or bust. At least. I want to say Super Bowl, but at least. At least.
I mean, out of these quarterbacks in the NFL, who do you like? Because I think we've gone down every quarterback in the league, and you don't like anybody besides Tom Brady.
No, I mean, for one, I'm a huge Josh Allen, big fan of him. Big Ben, I have no problem with Big Ben. Big Ben has earned everything throughout his career. He's one of the best of all time. I'm a Big Ben guy. As much as I hate the Steelers, I've never knocked Big Ben. He's an Ohio guy. That's why I also like Big Ben. I'm a big Drew Brees guy. I think Drew Brees delivers every single year. Again, knocked out of the playoffs. But I've never argued that Drew Brees is the best quarterback in the league. Lamar is.
Drew Brees has definitely been the best quarterback in the league. I want to say Drew Brees is the best quarterback in the NFL probably for like 5 straight years.
And 5 years ago.
Yeah,
but so I'm not going to.
But if you keep playing,
I'm not going to hold him to the standard of Lamar Jackson, who is supposed to be one of the best right now.
But if you keep playing, if you go out there playing the game, taking the check, then you get judged by the same thing.
That's like saying that that Peyton Manning, like expecting him to be the Peyton.
No, you go out there, you play, you're on it. Like the whole thing, like you and I get into it about this whole Michael Jordan thing, but people are like, oh man, the Wizards years don't count. Yeah, they do. He went out there and played, didn't he? You can't have like, oh man, remember that time Michael Jordan was 43 years old and he scored 45 points under Wizards? Yeah, remember he scored 10 points and shot 2 for 15? You can't have the good without the bad.
To hold Drew Brees at his age and at this point in his career to the expectations of where he was in his prime, I don't see how that makes any sense at all.
Tom Brady's still balling.
No, okay, then where was this with Carmelo Anthony in the NBA?
I said the same thing.
He's doing pretty good. I mean, he's coming off the bench. He's doing pretty good. No, that motherfucker needs to be averaging 30 then. 30. He's his guy. That's who he is.
He never averaged 30. Did he average 30?
He averaged 30. He had 32 points a game one year. But it's the NBA. Everyone scored.
Mellow.
Yeah. Anyways.
You out there cutting the check.
So, anyways, he got me all fired up. I was like, I could feel the anger just going through my. I have a problem. I really do.
You need a hug, man.
Don't touch me. No one touch me. I don't want no damn hug. I don't want no. But yeah. So, hold on. Who do I like? I like Alex Smith. Not everyone can be Baker Mayfield, okay? Not everyone can be Baker Mayfield. Just throwing that out there. All right. That wraps it up for us today, man. When we come back on Monday, the Cleveland Browns will have beaten your Pittsburgh Steelers.
What's the score?
I was thinking about that. I think the Browns can get 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground. Baker will get 1 passing touchdown, and they'll get 2 on the ground. That's at 21 and 2 field goals, 24-27. I don't think the Steelers' offense is as potent as what we think it is. I know they had that big second half. Maybe they do come out and fight. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I 27-24 Cleveland over the Steelers.
28-17 Steelers. You want to jump through this plastic thing and choke me.
No.
Look at his face, everybody.
I believe that everyone should have their opinion, and that, we.
I am going to go back and screenshot the face you just gave me.
I don't even know what face I gave you. That's a bad one.
Devil eyes, bruh.
Charles Mitchell, Baker Mayfield is garbage. You're garbage, Charles. You're a fan of a garbage team and a garbage organization. Your quarterback's a moron who thinks that Zac Taylor's a good coach. Goes on the hurt. Oh, by golly. I mean, I remember me from Home Alone. Yeah, I was the star of my own TV show.
Just 3 hours ago, you were saying good things about
Macaulay Culkin. I shook hands with Donald Trump in Home Alone, too. I mean, oh, my goodness. Look at me. Oh, yeah, Zac Taylor. See, now you got me all fired up. Now I'm all angry. Now
I got you all
you
fired
started
up.
it, and then Charles comes in.
How did I start it?
Bengals fan, Charles, you said the Browns are going to score 17 points. Man, you're going to be so embarrassed on Sunday when you're wrong.
Man, I know we had this conversation before. It probably was like, what, week 5 we had this conversation?
Week 5? I don't even remember last week. Anyways, all right. Charles Mitchell, I tell you, he knew. Charles Mitchell, I saw on Facebook yesterday. He took a picture of Joe Burrow on the herd, and I just sent him a bunch of laughing faces. I'm like, what are you doing? You Bengals fans are hilarious. All of you. You're all hilarious. Browns 27-24 over the Steelers, and that's with only 2 days of practice, no head coach, COVID just decimating them for weeks. Come on, Ben. College basketball fans, I tell you what, switching gears here, we're done 27-24 Browns over the Steelers. Kevin doesn't get the final word. Bottom line, his team sucks. But no. Wright State going to be on ESPN2 tonight, 7 o'clock, ESPN2 again. Wright State, Youngstown State. Wright State having a fantastic season already. And again, excited to see them. This is really cool though for the area. You get Wright State at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. And right after that game, the Dayton Flyers at Davidson. Wright State favored by 11.5 points tonight. UD is, well, they're not favored to win. They are 7-point underdog, at least the last I checked. So there is that. But again, I think, big one for Wright State tonight again is that I like where they're at in the Ken Palm. They continue moving up there. Their net rating came out. Not bad. I mean, they're continuing to get recognition for just a program that gets better and better each year, and they have a chance here. They're wearing their military themed jerseys tonight, by the way. I'm a big fan of those. I'm a big fan of those.
Bob Grant, AD, Bob Grant, 2 alums talking here. We want jerseys. I want a jersey with Nash on the back. Number 7. Which one?
The only jersey I'm wearing for the next week is the Browns jersey, just to celebrate their win over yours.
22, right? You wore 22, right?
What?
Jersey number 22.
Yes, I did. I still have my Wright State jersey from college, by the way. Not that, but
AD Bob Grant. How about your boys?
That's all on you. All right, folks.
Just holler at me.
Have a great night, everyone. Have a great weekend. If you're a Steelers fan, I feel bad for you. You're going to get embarrassed by Baker Mayfield and the Browns. And then Bengals fans are going to have to witness Baker Mayfield. After all the smack talk they did, you're going to have to witness him lead the Browns to a playoff win on Sunday night at Pittsburgh. Have a great weekend, everyone. Go Browns.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's